Hello everyone, and welcome to the DXD Tales. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Issei's quirk was Dragon Sage, allowing him to manifest lost dragons. Issei x Mirko x Rias Gremory, My Hero Academia x DXD. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. The Dragon's Voice. The fluorescent lights of UA's training hall B flickered overhead as Issei Hyodo crashed into the padded wall for the third time in 15 minutes. Pain bloomed across his back, familiar and unwelcome. His breath came in ragged gasps as he pushed himself up from the floor, ignoring the whispers from his classmates. Hyodo's down again. What's he even doing in the hero course with a quirk like that? Heard he talks to imaginary dragons or something. Issei wiped blood from his split lip, the metallic taste lingering on his tongue. At 17, he stood taller than most second years, with a physique built through years of compensating for what everyone called a non-combat quirk. His brown hair clung damply to his forehead as he faced his opponent again. "That's enough, Bakugo," announced Present Mike from the observation platform. "You've made your point," Katsuki Bakugo sneered, small explosions still crackling around his palms. "He's the one who challenged me. Not my fault." Dragon Boy can't back up his talk. Issei straightened his training uniform, maintaining eye contact with Bakugo. "I'm fine. Let's continue." Present Mike sighed dramatically. "Stubborn as a, well, dragon, I guess. 5 more minutes, then we're switching pairs." The merged world had created strange bedfellows in hero education. 3 years ago, when the supernatural realm had suddenly collided with the world of quirks, society had struggled to adapt. Now, Ua High School housed both quirk users and supernatural beings, attempting to forge a new generation of heroes for this complex reality. Issei's quirk, Dragon Sage, had seemed impressive on paper. The ability to communicate with ancient dragons sounded powerful until everyone realized a crucial detail: dragons were believed extinct for millennia. His power manifested only as vague impressions, whispers of wisdom, and occasional heightened instincts. Nothing concrete enough for hero work. Bakugo lunged forward with explosive speed. Issei shifted his weight, hearing something like distant thunder in his mind, a dragon's voice offering fragmented advice. Angle, 43 degrees, pivot, asterisk. He moved as instructed, barely evading Bakugo's right hook. The explosive quirk user compensated instantly, bringing his left hand up in a vicious uppercut. "Not yet. Patience, asterisk." Issei resisted the urge to counter, instead weaving backward as heat seared past his chin. The dragon voice, Drag, he called himself, had never steered Issei wrong, but his guidance came in frustrating fragments. Like trying to tune a broken radio. "Stop dancing and fight me," Bakugo roared, unleashing a concentrated blast. This time, Issei couldn't dodge completely. The explosion caught his shoulder, spinning him around. He used the momentum, dropping low and sweeping his leg toward Bakugo's ankles. The explosive teen jumped easily over the attempt. "Pathetic," Bakugo spat. "You're wasting everyone's time." Something hot and unfamiliar stirred in Issei's chest. The whispering voice grew louder, no longer distant thunder but a storm breaking directly overhead. "Enough, asterisk." Heat flooded Issei's veins. His vision sharpened, the training hall suddenly hyper-detailed. He could count the beads of sweat on Bakugo's forehead at 5 meters, could hear the subtle shift in his opponent's breathing pattern telegraphing his next move. Bakugo lunged with his strongest right hook, an explosion building in his palm. Time seemed to slow as Issei saw the attack unfold before it happened. "Now, asterisk." Issei moved with precision he'd never experienced before. He pivoted exactly 43 degrees left, feeling Bakugo's attack brush past him. In the same motion, he gripped his opponent's ended wrist and used Bakugo's momentum to throw him, not with brute strength, but with perfect mechanical efficiency. Bakugo crashed into the same wall Issei had hit minutes before, his eyes wide with shock. The training hall fell silent. Present Mike's jaw dropped visibly. "What the hell was that?" Bakugo demanded, scrambling to his feet. Issei stood motionless, equally surprised. The voice, Egg, rumbled with satisfaction in his mind. First manifestation achieved. Combat awareness. Primitive, but sufficient for now. Asterisk. Before anyone could question what had happened, alarms blared throughout the building. Red emergency lights bathed the training hall. "Attention all Hero Course students," came Principal Nezu's voice over the speakers. "This is not a drill. Villain activity reported at Musudafu Central Bank. Hostage situation in progress. All second and third year students report to Assembly Hall A for emergency deployment briefing." President Mike clapped his hands. "You heard the principal. Move, move, move." As students rushed toward the exit, Issei felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned to find a girl with crimson hair and piercing teal eyes studying him intently. Her form was customized with subtle Gothic elements, a concession to her supernatural heritage. "That was dragon magic," said Rias Gremory, her voice carrying a melodic quality that hinted at her devil lineage. "Not just communication. You channeled draconic power." Issei blinked in surprise. "I don't know what happened. It felt different this time. We should talk after this emergency," she said, a calculating look crossing her features. The House of Gremory has extensive records on dragon manifestations. Before Issei could respond, Bakugo shoved between them. "Save your supernatural dating for later. We've got actual hero work to do." Rias' eyes flashed dangerously, a faint crimson aura momentarily surrounding her. Bakugo's explosive confidence faltered for just an instant. Even he knew better than to antagonize a high-class devil unnecessarily. As they hurried toward Assembly Hall A, Issei felt Diedrag's presence lingering at the edges of his consciousness. She is right. This is just the beginning. Asterisk. Principal Nezu stood before the assembled students, his expression grave despite his cuddly appearance. Behind him, a digital map displayed Musudafu Central Bank and surrounding areas. "The situation is delicate," he explained. 4 villains, at least 2 with combat-type quirks. Approximately 27 hostages. Police have established a perimeter, but negotiations have stalled. Pro-Hero Midnight stepped forward. "This will be a supervised field exercise for second and third years. You will coordinate with on-site heroes under their direction. This is not an opportunity for independent action or showing off. Teams have been pre-assigned based on complementary abilities," continued Nezu. "When your name is called, proceed to your designated pro-hero supervisor." As names were called, Issei noted the careful integration of quirk users and supernatural students. UA had pioneered this approach, pairing different power systems to develop new cooperative techniques. Team 5. Bakugo Katsuki, Rias Gremory, Issei Hyodo. Report to Mirko at the east entrance. Bakugo scowled. "Great. Dragon Boy and Devil Princess." Rias maintained perfect composure. "I assure you, my power of destruction will be quite useful. Perhaps more than your firecrackers." Before Bakugo could explode, literally and figuratively, Issei stepped between them. "We should get moving. Mirko isn't known for her patience." The rabbit hero's reputation preceded her. At 24, Rumi Usajiyama had rocketed up the hero rankings through sheer combat prowess and uncompromising effectiveness. Unlike many pros, she'd embraced the integration of supernatural elements into hero society, incorporating mystical techniques into her already form. The trio found her crouched on a rooftop overlooking the bank. Her muscular legs coiled like springs. Her white hair caught the afternoon sunlight as she turned to assess them with critical red eyes. "About time," she said, her voice sharp and commanding. "Situation's evolving. 2 minutes ago, one of the hostages tried to be a hero. Now they're threatening to execute hostages unless their demands are met." She pointed toward the bank's eastern emergency exit. "They're quirks. One can generate concrete barriers, another manipulates air pressure, third has some kind of sensory ability, fourth unknown. Standard hostage protocol is compromised because Concrete Guy has sealed most entry points." Bakugo cracked his knuckles. "So we blast through." Mirko's ears twitched in irritation. "And risk the hostages. Think before you speak, kid." "I can teleport a small team inside using a magic circle," Rias offered. "But I'd need to know precisely where we're going, or we could materialize inside a wall. Too risky without internal layout confirmation." Mirko replied. "They've disabled the security cameras." Issei closed his eyes, feeling that strange new connection stirring. "What about the ventilation system?" Mirko's sharp eyes fixed on him. The main vents are too small for a person. But not for reconnaissance, Issei continued, an idea forming as Ddrake's whispers guided his thinking. Do you have any upward items with remote viewing capability? A slow smile spread across Mirko's face. Kid, I like how you think. Support team dropped off emergency kits behind the police line. There's miniature drone equipment available. She tapped her communicator. Mirko requesting micro-drone package at east position. Within minutes, they had a thumbnail-sized drone with audiovisual capabilities. Issei studied the bank's exterior, noting the ventilation access points. Northeastern corner. Maintenance access, least likely to be monitored. Asterisk. There, he pointed. That maintenance vent hasn't been sealed, probably because it's too small to be an entry threat. If we can get visual confirmation of hostage positions, Rias could teleport a team precisely. Mirko raised an eyebrow. That's actually solid. Bakugo, you're on drone control. Gremory, prepare your teleportation circle but wait for my signal. Hyodo, with me, I want to hear more about how you spotted that access point. As Bakugo began navigating the micro-drone through the vent system, Mirko pulled Issei aside. Your file says non-combat quirk. Dragon communication with no actual dragons to talk to. Her eyes narrowed. You just demonstrated tactical analysis that experienced pros might miss. Explain. Issei hesitated. Something's changed today. The dragon. Ddrake. He's never been this clear before. It's like he's actually awake now, not just dreaming. Tell her about the manifestation. Asterisk. During training, I manifested some kind of combat awareness. Enhanced perception, improved reflexes. Rias called it dragon magic. Mirko studied him with newfound interest. The supernatural merger has activated dormant abilities before. Powers from mythology suddenly becoming viable in our reality. She nodded toward Rias, who was preparing her teleportation circle. Devils existed in our world for centuries, but hidden. Now they're just another part of society. Maybe your dragons aren't as extinct as everyone thought. Before Issei could respond, Bakugo called out. Got visual. 4 tangos, hostages gathered in the main vault area. 1 villain patrolling, others stationary. They gathered around the small L-control tablet showing grainy footage from the drone. Mirko quickly assessed the situation. Concrete quirk user is here, she pointed to a burly man near the vault entrance. Air pressure manipulator by the front windows. The other 2 must be the sensor type and unknown. Rias leaned closer. The one in the business suit, that's not a quirk user. The aura signature is distinctive. He's a fallen angel. Mirko cursed under her breath. Supernatural involvement complicates things. Fallen angels can generate light weapons that are particularly lethal. Issei studied the footage, feeling AIG's influence enhancing his perception. The patrol pattern has a 3-second blind spot at this junction, he noted. If we teleport during that window, we could secure a position before they detect us. Mirko nodded approvingly. Gremory, can you place us precisely in that alcove? With the visual reference, yes, Rias confirmed, her magic circle glowing crimson beneath her palms. But I can only transport 4 people at once. Any more would destabilize the spatial matrix. Then it's the 4 of us, Mirko decided. Priority is hostage safety. Bakugo, you create a distraction toward the front entrance when I give the signal. Gremory, you'll shield the hostages. Hyodo, she paused. Stay close to me and observe. If your dragon has tactical insights, I want to hear them. Issei nodded, though he noticed Bakugo's scowl at not being given a more aggressive role. Fallen angels are vulnerable to dragon energy, Rias mentioned, glancing at Issei. If you can manifest any draconic power, it would be particularly effective against him. 30 seconds until the patrol blind spot, Bakugo announced. Mirko placed a hand on Issei's shoulder. First real villain encounter. How are you feeling, kid? Surprisingly, Issei felt none of the anxiety he'd expected. Instead, a calm clarity filled him, Ddrake's presence a steady anchor in his mind. Ready, he said simply. Teleporting in 3, 2, 1. Rias' magic circle expanded beneath them, crimson light enveloping their bodies. The world shifted, reality bending momentarily before reforming. They materialized in the bank alcove exactly as planned. The patrol guard's back turned as he moved away from their position. Mirko immediately took charge, her voice a barely audible whisper. On my mark. 3 targets before they can threaten hostages. Bakugo. Distraction in 30 seconds. Gremory. Barrier ready. Hyodo. Stay on my 6. Issei's enhanced senses cataloged everything. Hostages' positions, villain placement, potential escape routes. Ddrake's voice provided continuous tactical assessment. The Fallen One has noticed something. Heart rate elevated. Preparing light weapon. Asterisk. The Fallen Angel suspects something. Issei whispered urgently. He's reaching for a weapon. Mirko's ears twitched in surprise at Issei's perception, but she adapted instantly. Change of plan. Gremory. Barrier now. Bakugo. Distraction immediately. As Rias thrust her hands forward, a crimson barrier materialized around the hostage group. Simultaneously, an explosion rocked the front entrance, Bakugo's distraction right on cue. The fallen angel spun toward them, a spear of golden light forming in his hand. Intruders. Kill the hostages. Mirko launched herself with devastating speed, her powerful legs propelling her across the bank floor. She connected with the concrete Quirk user before he could react, her kick sending him crashing into a marble column. The air pressure villain raised his hands, creating a visible distortion in the atmosphere as he prepared to attack. Issei felt Ddrake's presence intensify. Draconic aura. Channel it now. Asterisk. Heat flooded Issei's body, coalescing around his left arm. Scales, actual crimson scales, materialized along his forearm, glowing with inner fire. Acting on pure instinct, he thrust his transformed arm forward. A wave of crimson energy erupted from his palm, all-eating with the air pressure attack and dispersing it completely. The villain staggered backward, shock evident on his face. What the hell kind of quirk is that? There was no time to answer. Fallen Angel launched his light spear directly at Rias, recognizing the devil as she maintained the protective barrier around the hostages. Intercept. You can neutralize holy energy. Asterisk. Issei moved faster than he'd ever thought possible, placing himself between Rias and the light spear. He caught the weapon with his street burn against his palm before dissolving into harmless particles. The fallen angel's eyes widened in disbelief. A dragon vessel. Here, Mirko capitalized on the distraction, vaulting over a counter and delivering a brutal kick to the fallen angel's sternum. Even with supernatural durability, the impact sent him flying into the wall, leaving an impression in the plaster. Bakugo. Secure the sensor villain. Mirko commanded through her communicator. Another explosion ROCKED the building as Bakugo engaged the fourth villain. With 3 opponents down and 1 occupied, Mirko turned to Rias. Get the hostages out. Teleport them in groups to the safe zone. As Rias began evacuation procedures, Mirko approached Issei, her expression a mixture of surprise and approval. That wasn't in your file. Since when can you manifest dragon parts? Issei stared at his arm, the scales already beginning to fade. Since right now, apparently. The fallen angel struggled to his feet, golden light gathering around him. The Red Dragon Emperor, after all these centuries. His laugh was unhinged. My master will reward me beyond imagination for this information. Before anyone could react, the fallen angel spread wings of darkest black and crashed through the ceiling, leaving a shower of debris in his wake. Mirko cursed. Damn supernatural types and their dramatic exits. She tapped her communicator. Mirko reporting. Hostages secure, 3 villains detained, 1 supernatural entity escaped. Fallen angel, considered dangerous. As police units moved in to secure the scene, Issei felt the last of Ddrake's manifestation fade. Exhaustion hit him suddenly, his knees buckling. Rias was at his side instantly, supporting him with surprising strength. First manifestation always drains substantial energy, she explained. You need rest and replenishment. Bakugo emerged from the back offices, dragging an unconscious villain. What happened to Dragon Boy? Don't tell me he passed out after 1 attack. He manifested the boosted gear, Rias replied sharply. Quote, a sacred gear of legendary status among devils and angels alike. Show some respect. Bakugo's retort died on his lips as Mirko approached. All of you performed well, the pro-hero stated, her tone allowing no argument. Especially you, Hyodo. Quick thinking, adaptive strategy, and unexpected combat capability. Consider me interested in your development. She handed him a business card. My agency. Call when you're recovered. We'll talk internships. As police secured the scene and medical personnel attended to hostages, Issei found himself sitting on an ambulance bumper, still processing everything that had happened. His ordinary life had shattered in a single day. Rias sat beside him, her crimson hair catching the late afternoon sunlight. The House of Gremory has extensive records on dragon manifestations, she said. Repeating her earlier statement, if Ddraig has awakened within you, you'll need guidance. Why would you help me? Issei asked, wariness mixing with exhaustion. A calculating smile curved Rias' lips. Dragons are extremely valuable in devil culture. Historical alliances between dragons and devils have shaped supernatural politics for millennia. She leaned closer. Besides, I find myself curious about you, Issei Hyodo. Not many humans can block a light spear with their bare hands. Before Issei could respond, a new voice interrupted them. Back off, devil. He needs medical attention, not political recruitment. A slender woman with violet eyes and black hair tied in a ponytail approached. Though she wore Yue's uniform, subtle differences marred her supernatural heritage. The faintest outline of black wings shimmered behind her when she moved. Akeno Himahima, Rias acknowledged coolly. I wasn't aware fallen angels had an interest in Yue's hero program. Half fallen, Akeno corrected, her tone deceptively sweet despite the tension between them. And my interest is in ensuring newly awakened sacred gear users aren't exploited. She turned to Issei. That arm transformation wasn't just any dragon manifestation. It was the boosted gear, one of 13 Longinus-class sacred gears capable of killing gods. Issei stared at his normal-looking arm. Killing gods. That's overwhelming. I know. Akeno's expression softened. Sacred gear manifestation is usually triggered by life-threatening situations or extreme emotional states. Once awakened, they grow stronger with use. Rias stood, smoothing her uniform. As fascinating as this impromptu supernatural education session is, we should return to Ua for debriefing. Her eyes lingered on Issei. My offer stands. The Gremory library contains knowledge that could help you master your abilities. As she walked away, Akeno sighed. Be careful with devil bargains, Issei. They never as straightforward as they seem. You say that like fallen angels are more trustworthy, Issei replied, a hint of humor breaking through his exhaustion. Akeno's laugh was unexpectedly warm. Fair point. Let's just say all supernatural factions will find you very interesting now. She offered her hand. Can you stand? Principal Nezu will want a full report. UA's conference room buzzed with activity as faculty members reviewed footage from the bank incident. Issei sat uncomfortably at the center table, feeling like a specimen under microscope as various teachers discussed his newly manifested abilities. Principal Nezu sipped tea calmly. Most interesting. A quirk evolution incorporating supernatural elements. The merger continues to produce unexpected results. It's not a quirk evolution, corrected Mephistopheles, who served as UA's supernatural studies advisor. The flamboyant demon adjusted his purple top hat thoughtfully. The boy has awakened a sacred gear, div, in artifacts created by the biblical god and implanted in humans. The dragon sage Quirk simply provided a compatible vessel. Present Mike leaned forward dramatically. So he's got 2 powers now. That's awesome. More complicated than that, Aizawa interjected, his tired eyes studying Issei. His quirk and sacred gear are interacting in unprecedented ways. The dragon communication ability is enhancing the sacred gear's powers while the sacred gear is strengthening his connection to dragon spirits. Issei cleared his throat. Excuse me, but what does this mean for my hero training? Faculty exchanged glances before Nezu replied. It means, young Hyodo, that your training program requires significant adjustment. You'll join our specialized supernatural program immediately while maintaining your regular hero studies. Quote, the supernatural program, Issei echoed, a specialized track for students with abilities that cross the quirk supernatural boundary, explained Midnight. Rias Gremory, Akeno Himahima, and several others with similar hybrid abilities train there. Mephisto twirled his cane enthusiastically. You'll love it. All the benefits of hero training plus specialized supernatural instruction. And I'll personally oversee your dragon manifestation development. Issei's mind reeled at the implications. Yesterday, he'd been the student with the useless quirk. Today, he was apparently hosting a legendary dragon artifact. There's one more thing, Aizawa added, sliding a tablet across the table. The fallen angel from the bank incident has been identified by supernatural intelligence networks. Kokabeel, a high-ranking fallen with connections to extremist factions opposing human supernatural integration. The tablet displayed an image of the business-suited man, now identified with a comprehensive threat assessment. His interest in your awakening is concerning, Nezu stated. Until we better understand the situation, you'll be assigned additional security protocols. You mean I'll be watched, Issei translated. Protected, corrected Midnight. There are factions in both human and supernatural societies who might target a dragon vessel. He meeting continued with discussions of training schedules, security measures, and of Issei's newfound abilities. Throughout it all, he felt Didrag's presence, observing silently. As the faculty dispersed, Momo Yaoyorozu approached Issei in the hallway. The class vice president carried a stack of documents and a determined expression. Hyodo-san, she greeted formally. I've been assigned as your Quirk research partner for the special training program. Issei blinked in surprise. Research partner. My creation Quirk requires detailed understanding of materials and structures, she explained. The faculty believes this makes me ideally suited to help document and analyze your dragon manifestations from a scientific perspective. She presented him with a meticulously organized binder. I've already compiled relevant research on theoretical dragon physiology and energy output estimations. The thoroughness was impressive if somewhat overwhelming. You did all this since the bank incident. That was only 3 hours ago. A faint blush colored her cheeks. I prefer to be prepared. Your manifestation represents a fascinating intersection of biological quirk science and supernatural energy dynamics. As they walked, Momo explained how UA's labs had been upgraded to monitor both quirk and supernatural energy signatures. Her technical explanation was interrupted when they rounded a corner and nearly collided with Mirko. The rabbit hero leaned against the wall, scrolling through her phone. She looked up, red eyes assessing them both. Yaoyorozu. Creation quirk, high academic performance, strategic mind. Good partner for Dragon Boy. Her direct manner was jarring but efficient. She turned to Issei. My office tomorrow, 0800. Bring training gear. Without waiting for a response, she pushed off from the wall and strode away, leaving them staring after her. Did she just, Issei began, offer you special training? Momo finished. It appears so. Mirko Rely takes personal interest in students. She studied him with renewed curiosity. Your performance today must have been truly exceptional. Issei rubbed the back of his neck, uncomfortable with the attention. I just did what seemed right at the time. Honestly, most of it was Didrag's guidance. The dragon entity you communicate with, Momo noted, making a quick notation in her research binder. I'd be interested in documenting the communication process. Perhaps we could develop a system to measure the information transfer rate and accuracy. The scientific approach was refreshingly IGHT forward compared to the supernatural politics surrounding his awakening. As they continued toward the dormitories, Issei found himself appreciating Momo's practical perspective. The dormitory Mon area was unusually crowded when they arrived. News of the bank incident had spread throughout UA, and students gathered around televisions displaying news coverage. Issei tried to slip past unnoticed, but Kirishima spotted him immediately. Dude, they're saying you turned your arm into a dragon claw or something. Conversation halted as all eyes turned toward him. Issei froze, unused to being the center of attention. Before he could respond, a hand clapped his shoulder firmly. Give him space, came Bakugo's gruff voice. Anyone who takes a light spear for a classmate deserves a damn moment to breathe. The unexpected support from his former sparring opponent left Issei momentarily speechless. Bakugo met his surprised look with a challenging glare. Don't read into it. You weren't completely useless today, that's all. He lowered his voice. And whatever that dragon thing was, it was actually impressive. So don't screw it up with all these extras pestering you. With that backhanded encouragement, Bakugo stalked off, leaving Issei to navigate the curious stares and questions from his classmates. Momo efficiently deflected the most intrusive inquiries, her authoritative presence as vice president providing a buffer. When Issei finally reached his room, exhaustion hit him full force. He collapsed onto his bed, arm draped over his eyes. You performed admirably for a first manifestation. Diedrag's voice was clearer than ever, no longer the distant whisper he'd struggled to hear for years. What's happening to me? Issei asked aloud. Yesterday I could barely hear you. Today I'm growing scales and shooting energy beams. The worlds are merging more completely than either humans or supernaturals realize, Diedrag explained. The barriers between realms have thinned enough for true dragon manifestation. You were the first dragon sage to awaken in this new reality. And the boosted gear that everyone's talking about. A sacred artifact containing my spirit. In previous ages, it functioned independently of quirks. Now, your dragon sage ability has synchronized with the sacred gear, creating a new power altogether. Issei stared at his left arm, Reem. Bearing the crimson scales that had covered it. Is that why the fallen angel, Kokobile, was so interested? Dragons represent power beyond what most supernatural factions can access. A human with dragon communication and manifestation abilities would be valuable to many, and threatening to others. A knock at his door interrupted their conversation. Issei opened it to find Rias Gremory standing in the hallway, now dressed in casual clothes that somehow managed to look elegant on her. May I come in? She asked, though her tone suggested it wasn't really a question. Issei hesitated before stepping aside. Diedrag's presence radiated caution. Rias glanced around his modest dorm room before taking a seat at his desk chair. I wanted to continue our conversation from earlier, without interruptions from half-fallen angels. Quote, about the Gremory library, among other things. She crossed her legs, studying him intently. The Gremory clan has historically maintained positive relations with Dragonkant. In fact, my brother's queen is part dragon. Issei leaned against the wall, keeping some distance between them. Everyone seems very interested in me suddenly. Yesterday, I was just the kid with the useless quirk. A smile curved Rias' lips. The supernatural world values power differently than hero society. What seems useless in one context might be priceless in another. She leaned forward slightly. Tell me, what did Diedrag say about me? The direct question caught Issei off guard. He didn't. Be careful, Diedrag cautioned. Devils are skilled in information extraction. She's testing how much we know and how much we'll reveal. Issei chose his words carefully. He advised caution. Said devils always have multiple motives. Rather than being offended, Rias laughed, the sound musical and genuine. He's not wrong. Though I'd argue the same applies to dragons. She rose gracefully. My offer stands. The Gremory library contains texts that could help you understand your awakening. In exchange, I'd appreciate the opportunity to learn more about modern dragon manifestation. A devil bargain, Issei noted, remembering Akino's warning. A mutually beneficial arrangement, Rias corrected. She reached into her pocket and withdrew a small ornate card. If you're interested, this will bring you to the Gremory estate. Just add a drop of blood to activate the teleportation circle. She placed the card on his desk and moved toward the door. Consider it, Issei Hyodo. The days ahead will be challenging as various factions assess your potential. You'll need allies who understand the supernatural political landscape. After she departed, Issei picked up the card, feeling its magical energy pulse against his fingertips. Clever, Diedrag commented. She's offered knowledge and protection without demanding immediate commitment. Can she be trusted? No devil can be fully trusted, came the pragmatic response. But the Gremory clan is known foe. Are treating their allies better than most. And we need information about this merged world. Issei placed the card in his desk drawer, decisions deferred for the moment. He had training with Mirko tomorrow, Specialo understand. One day had completely transformed his life, elevating him from background character to someone of interest in both human and supernatural circles. As he prepared for bed, exhaustion settling into his bones, he caught his reflection in the mirror. For just a moment, he thought he saw crimson scales shimmer beneath his skin and his eyes flash with dragon fire. Rest, Diedrag advised. Tomorrow we begin true training. The dragon within you has awakened, and many will seek to control or destroy what they cannot understand. Issei nodded, oddly calm despite everything. The dragon's presence felt right somehow, as though a missing piece of himself had finally clicked into place. We'll be ready, he promised, to D-drag and to himself. Outside his window, the Lig. HTS of Musudafu glittered against the night sky, a city where humans with quirks and supernatural beings attempted coexistence. Somewhere in that urban landscape, fallen angels whispered of the Red Dragon Emperor's return. Devils calculated new political equations, and hero agencies updated threat assessments. The Age of Dragons had returned to a world fundamentally changed. And Issei Hyodo, ONC. Dismissed as the boy with the useless quirk, stood at the center of it all. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, Scales of Justice. Dawn broke over UA's specialized training facility as Issei arrived, stifling a yawn. Sleep had come fitfully, his dreams filled with dragon fire and ancient battles he'd never witnessed. The facility, built after the world merger to accommodate supernatural abilities, stood separate from the main campus. Its reinforced walls inscribed with containment runes. Mirko leaned against the entrance, tapping her foot impatiently. Unlike her hero costume, she wore simple training gear, black compression shorts and a fitted tank top that did nothing to hide her powerful physique. 7:58, she noted, checking her watch. Cutting it close, Dragon Boy. Issei straightened, adjusting the UA training uniform he'd brought as instructed. Sorry, had trouble sleeping. Dragon dreams. She pushed off from the wall, leading him inside. Common with sacred gear awakening. Your subconscious accessing previous wielders' memories. The rabbit hero's knowledge of supernatural phenomena surprised him. As if reading his thoughts, she glanced back with a wry smile. 3 years working alongside devils, angels, and yokai teaches you things. Plus, I dated a kitsune for 6 months. Learned more about spiritual energy in that relationship than from any textbook. The training area expanded before them, a cavernous space with multiple specialized zones. One corner featured temperature-controlled environments, another contained what appeared to be gravity manipulation equipment. The central area held a simple sparring circle inscribed with glowing symbols. Containment and monitoring wards, Mirko explained, gesturing to the inscriptions. Designed by Collaborat, ion between support department engineers and Onmyoji practitioners. They'll measure your energy output and prevent collateral damage if things get explosive. Issei eyed the wards cautiously. Is that likely? Sacred gear first manifestations are notoriously unstable. Especially dragon types. She stretched her powerful legs, dropping casually into a split that made Issei wince. Before we start, show me what you remember from yesterday. How did it feel when the scales appeared? Closing his eyes, Issei concentrated on recalling the sensation. Heat, starting in my chest, flowing down my left arm. Like liquid fire under my skin, but it didn't hurt. Then D-Drake's voice became clearer, guiding my movements. Mirko nodded. Try to recreate that feeling. Focus on the heat first. She has experience with this. D-Drake observed. Interesting. Issei concentrated, searching for that internal flame. Minutes passed in frustrating silence. Nothing's happening, he finally admitted. Because you're trying too hard. Mirko stated, circling him. Sacred gears respond to emotion and instinct, not intellectual effort. Yesterday, what triggered the manifestation? Protecting Rias from the light spear. Before that, in training with Bakugo, Issei thought back. Frustration. Being underestimated. Wanting to prove myself. Mirko stopped directly in front of him, red eyes challenging. So you needed to be angry. Pathetic. I thought you might be interesting, but maybe you're just another one-hit wonder who got lucky. The deliberate provocation struck its target. Heat flared in Issei's chest, indignation rising. I'm not what? Not worthy, not skilled. The file doesn't lie, Hyodo. Years of mediocre performance, barely hanging on in the hero course. One dragon flare-up doesn't change that. The heat intensified, spreading down his left arm. Issei gritted his teeth. She's baiting you, D-Drake warned. But use the emotion. Channel it. I've worked hard. Harder than anyone to stay in the hero course, Issei countered, his voice low and intense. Without flashy powers or connections. Just determination and determination doesn't stop villains, Mirko cut in, her tone dismissive. Results do. So far, all I see is enough. Issei thrust his arm forward, the heat erupting into visible manifestation. Crimson scales materialized along his forearm, his hand transforming into a clawed appendage glowing with internal fire. A green jewel manifested in the center of his palm, pulsing with energy. Mirko's stern expression melted into a satisfied grin. There it is. The boosted gear. She tapped her communicator. Manifestation achieved. Beginning Phase 1 assessment. Realizing he'd been skillfully manipulated, Issei exhaled slowly. That was a setup. Of course it was. Emotional triggers are the fastest way to access sacred gear abilities in new users. She circled him, examining the transformation. Hold the manifestation as long as possible. We need baseline duration metrics. Quote, for the next hour, Mirko put him through a series of basic tests, measuring energy output, manifestation duration, and physical enhancements. Unlike his previous instructors, she focused entirely on practical applications rather than theory. Faster reaction time, enhanced strength in the transformed limb, approximately 300% increase in durability, she noted, reviewing data on a tablet. Not bad for day 2. The scaled arm reverted to normal as Issei's stamina finally gave out. He dropped to one knee, breathing heavily. Energy depletion consistent with sacred gear reports. Mirko continued, making notes. Recovery time approximately 3 minutes based on vital signs. As Issei caught his breath, a new voice echoed through the training facility. Fascinating biological transformation. The scales maintain perfect geometric patterns despite being manifested energy rather than physical matter. Momo Yaoyorozu approached, carrying sophisticated monitoring equipment. Her UA training uniform was modified with additional utility pouches, practical without sacrificing the professionalism she always maintained. Yaoyorozu, Mirko acknowledged. Right on time for Phase 2. Phase 2, Issei questioned, still recovering. Momo set down her equipment with practiced efficiency. Scientific baseline establishment. While Mirko-sensei has been testing your combat applications, I'll be documenting the physiological and energetic aspects. She began assembling what looked like a portable scanning station. With your permission, I'd like to take readings during manifestation. The thoroughness of UA's approach impressed Issei. You've really thought this through. Of course, Momo replied, calibrating her equipment. Your manifesta, Qian represents a unique convergence of Quirk science and supernatural energy. Understanding it could advance both fields significantly. Mirko crossed her arms. What she's too polite to say is that. You're a fascinating lab rat for the eggheads. Despite her blunt words, her tone held no malice. But the practical applications matter more. Can you fight with it? You use it to save lives. Both approaches have merit. Momo countered diplomatically. Scientific understanding improves practical application. Practical experience informs theoretical models. They're contrasting perspectives. Mirko's combat-focused pragmatism versus Momo's analytical methodology created an unexpectedly complementary training environment. As the session continued, Issei found himself benefiting from both approaches. Momo's precise measurements helped identify patterns in the manifestation process. Your energy signature shifts approximately 3.2 seconds before visible transformation begins. If you can recognize that shift, you might reduce manifestation time. Meanwhile, Mirko focused on combat applications. The scaled arm increases impact force, but your body position isn't optimized for it. You're fighting like a human with a dragon arm, not integrating the two. By mid-morning, Issei had managed to manifest the scaled arm 4 times, each attempt easier than the last. Momo's data showed increasing stability in the transformation while Mirko's combat assessments noted improved coordination. Progress, Mirko concluded as they took a break. Not impressive yet, but progress. Coming from her, it felt like high praise. Momo reviewed her collected data. The energy pattern resembles Quirk activation but with distinctive supernatural harmonics. It's almost as if 2 separate systems are synchronizing. She's perceptive, Ddraig commented. Most humans cannot detect the distinction. Ddraig says you're right, Issei relayed. It is 2 systems working together. Momo's eyes lit with scientific curiosity. You can communicate with the dragon entity during manifestation. That's remarkable. Is the communication clearer when the sacred gear is active? Much clearer. Like he's standing right beside me instead of speaking from another room. Mirko checked the time. Joint training exercise starts in 30 minutes. We should wrap this up. Joint training, Issei questioned. Specialized program requirement. Hero students paired with supernatural students for cooperative combat scenarios. Mirko gathered her equipment. You'll be working with Class 2A and the supernatural program students. Present Mike and I are supervising. As they prepared to leave, Momo approached Issei with a small device resembling a wristwatch. I developed this based on this morning's readings. It will monitor your energy fluctuations and alert you when manifestation becomes possible. It might help with control. The thoughtfulness of the gesture caught him off guard. You made this just this morning. I worked on the prototype last night after reviewing initial data from the bank incident, she explained, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. My creation Quirk is well suited for rapid prototyping. Thank you, Issei said, genuinely touched by her effort. This will help a lot. Mirko watched their interaction with an amused expression. If you two are done with the support item flirting, we need to move. Yaoyorozu, you're participating in the joint exercise too, correct? Momo's blush deepened. Yes, Mirko-sensei. I should prepare with my assigned team. As she hurried away, Mirko gave Issei a knowing look. Smart girls are underrated. She made that device specifically for you, you know. She's just being thorough, Issei protested. She approaches everything scientifically. And spent all night designing a custom support item because it's scientifically interesting. Mirko shook her head. For someone with enhanced dragon perception, you're surprisingly oblivious. Ground Gamma had been modified for the joint training exercise. The industrial training ground now featured sections with distinctly supernatural elements, areas where gravity fluctuated unpredictably. Zones of elemental influence, and structures that seemed to shift between physical and spiritual states. Present Mike addressed the assembled students, his voice mercifully modulated to normal volume. Welcome to the supernatural integration exercise. Today's scenario. Villain organization with mixed quirk and supernatural abilities has taken control of an industrial complex. Your objective. Secure the facility and rescue civilian personnel. Mirko took over, her tone brisk and professional. You've been assigned to mixed teams, 3 members each, combining different power systems. Strategy matters more than raw strength here. The villains are faculty members simulating different ability types. The teams were displayed on a large screen. Issei found himself grouped with Rias Gremory and, surprisingly, Bakugo Katsuki. These teams are deliberately challenging, Present Mike explained. You'll need to overcome personality conflicts and power incompatibilities to succeed. Bakugo scowled as he joined Issei and Rias. Great. Stuck with Dragon Boy and Devil Princess again. Rias maintained perfect composure. Consider it an opportunity to develop your teamwork skills, Bakugo. Not everything can be solved by blowing it up. You'd be surprised, he muttered. Issei examined the tactical map they'd been provided. We're assigned to the northeastern quadrant. That's the refinery section with those supernatural gravity fluctuations. My power of destruction works independently of gravity effects, Rias noted. I can provide ranged support I'll you two navigate the physical obstacles. Bakugo eyed her skeptically. What exactly does this power of destruction do? In answer, Rias extended her hand. Crimson-black energy swirled around her palm before coalescing into a small sphere. It annihilates anything it touches at the molecular level. Unlike your explosions, it's silent and leaves no residue. For once, Bakugo seemed genuinely impressed. Okay, that's actually useful. He turned to Issei. What about you? Can you do that dragon arm thing on command now? Working on it, Issei admitted. It's getting more consistent, but still requires concentration. Tell them about the boost ability, Ddraig suggested. Ddraig says I should explain something called the boost function. Apparently, the boosted gear can double my power every 10 seconds. Both Rias and Bakugo stared at him. Double, Bakugo repeated. As in, multiply by 2. Continuously. That's significant, Rias said, understating dramatically. The boosted gear is called a Longinus class sacred gear for good reason. With enough boosts, the wielder could theoretically challenge gods. Bakugo's expression shifted from skepticism to calculating interest. So our strategy is obvious. Dragon Boy boosts power while we protect him, then unleashes maximum firepower once charged. Not quite, Issei countered, studying the map more carefully. Each boost drains stamina exponentially. I might manage 2 or 3 before exhaustion at my current level. He pointed to several key locations. But we can use strategic boosts at critical moments. See these choke points. Perfect for amplified attacks. Rias and Bakugo exchanged surprised glances at Issei's tactical assessment. Since when are you a strategy guy? Bakugo demanded. Dragon wisdom, Issei explained. D-Drake has centuries of battle experience. He sees patterns I wouldn't notice. Their planning was interrupted as Present Mike announced the exercise's start. Teams deployed to their assigned entry points, preparing for the simulated mission. Ground Gamma's industrial landscape stretched before them as they reached their insertion point, a maintenance entrance to the refinery section. Inside, they could see the effects of the supernatural modifications. Metal walkways twisted at impossible angles, sections of floor floating disconnected from any support, and machinery opera. Ting despite being partially dematerialized. Remember, Mirko called out to all teams, faculty, villains, will be using capture equipment, not full power. But don't expect them to go easy on you. Rias created a small magical circle, projecting a 3-dimensional map of their section. 3 potential hostage locations in Olanes according to intel. Unknown power types. We split up. We cover more ground, Bakugo suggested. We split up. We get picked off individually, Issei countered. Better to move as a unit until we identify the opposition. Their first test came minutes after entering the facility. Gravity suddenly reversed, sending all 3 students floating toward the ceiling. Bakugo instinctively used controlled explosions to stabilize himself. Rias generated small destruction spheres as counterweights, adjusting her position with practiced ease. Issei, lacking ranged abilities, found himself tumbling helplessly, until D-Drake's voice cut through his confusion. Manifest. Dragons are not bound by mortal physics. Asterisk. The scaled arm materialized instantly, his fastest transformation yet. The jewel in his palm pulsed with emerald light as Issei instinctively grabbed a floating pipe, anchoring himself. Now what? He called to his teammates. This isn't natural gravity manipulation, Rias observed, her skirt magically staying in place despite her inverted position. It's yokai illusion magic. The gravity hasn't actually changed, our perception has. So we're actually standing normally? Bakugo questioned, still using small explosions to maintain position. No, the disorientation is real, she clarified, but if we recognize it as illusion, we can. A projectile whistled through the air, narrowly missing Bakugo. From the shadows emerged a familiar figure, Snipe, Yuei's gun-wielding teacher. Now sporting what appeared to be mystical ammunition in his revolver. Hostage rescue failed, he drawled in his western accent. Villains win when heroes waste time floating around. Bakugo didn't hesitate. He launched himself toward Snipe with explosive propulsion, firing an AP shot at the teacher's position. Snipe dodged with supernatural quickness, his movements unnaturally fluid. He's been enhanced, Rias called out. Yokai speed blessing. Issei gripped the pipe with his scaled hand. Bakugo, keep him distracted. Rias, can you counter the illusion? Not directly, but I can. She created a destruction sphere and fired it at a specific point in the ceiling. The energy burst disrupted something invisible, causing the gravity illusion to flicker momentarily. Now, first boost. Asterisk. Boost. Issei called instinctively. The jewel in his palm flashed, and power surged through him. His physical strength doubled instantly, allowing him to swing hymns. Elf with enough force to launch toward the disruption point Rias had identified. His scaled fist connected with what appeared to be empty air but felt like solid matter. A shriek echoed through the R.E. finery as the illusion shattered completely. Gravity returned to normal, dropping all 3 students and Snipe back to the floor. A small fox-like creature materialized, rubbing its head where Issei had struck. No fair. How did you see through my perfect illusion? Nezu-sensei, Issei asked, recognizing the principal's voice despite the different form. The fox shimmered and transformed back into Nezu, though with fox ears and 9 tails still visible. For this exercise, I'm playing the role of a kitsune illusionist. And you, young Hyodo, just demonstrated why dragons were so feared in supernatural society. Your sacred gear disrupted my yokai energy completely. Snipe adjusted his hat. Don't get cocky, though. In a real situation, Bakugo had used the distraction to close distance, placing his gauntlet directly against Snipe's chest. In a real situation, you'd be down already. Perhaps, Snipe acknowledged, but a real villain wouldn't be alone. The warning came too late. A wave of water erupted from a nearby pipe, encasing Bakugo in a floating bubble. Ectoplasm emerged, his normally gray appearance now blue-tinged and flowing like water. Water yokai possession, Rias identified. Ectoplasm sensei is mimicking a water spirit. Issei felt the boost's power still flowing through him. He had perhaps seconds before Bakugo would run out of air in the water prison. Second boost available, but choose wisely, fatigue follows. Asterisk. Boost. Issei called again. The power surge was intense, his strength now 4 times normal. Acting on instinct and Ddrake's whispered guidance, he slammed his scaled fist into the floor. The impact created a shockwave that disrupted Ectoplasm's water form, causing the bubble imprisoning Bakugo to collapse. The explosive student dropped to the ground, coughing but immediately combat-ready. Impressive use of the sacred gear, Nezu commented, now observing rather than participating. But every power has limitations. As if on cue, exhaustion hit Issei like a truck. His legs buckled, the scaled arm reverting to normal as his energy reserves depleted. Dragon Boys down, Bakugo called, moving to cover Issei's position. Rias stepped forward, crimson magic circles appearing around both hands. My turn. Her power of destruction manifested not as a single projectile but as a field of crimson particles surrounding ectoplasm. Checkmate, sensei. The water-possessed teacher froze, recognizing that a single thought from Rias would activate the destruction field. Clever application, Gremory. Non-lethal containment using lethal capability. Nezu clapped his paws together. And that concludes this scenario. Team Bakugo Gremory Hyodo successfully neutralized 2 villain threats and identified the illusion mechanism. 10 rescue points awarded. As Nezu and the teachers reset for the next team, Bakugo offered Issei a hand up. The gesture was so unexpected that Issei stared at it momentarily before accepting. That wasn't completely useless, Bakugo admitted grudgingly. The boost thing has potential. Indeed, Rias agreed, dispelling her magic circles. With proper training, Issei could become quite formidable. Issei leaned against a railing. Still recovering. The drain is intense though. 2 boosts and I'm completely wiped out. Stamina can be trained, Bakugo stated matter-of-factly. Power without endurance is just a party trick. The unexpected teamwork continued as they completed the exercise, locating the simulated hostages and extracting them from the facility. By the end, even Bakugo Sei made to have developed a grudging respect for his teammates' abilities. Present Mike's voice announced the exercise's conclusion. All teams returned to assembly area for debriefing. As students gathered, Issei noticed Momo's team returning from their sector. She caught his eye and gave a small thumbs up, indicating their success. Her training uniform showed signs of intense combat, smudges of dirt, and what appeared to be frost on one sleeve, but she maintained her composed demeanor. Mirko addressed the assembled students. Overall performance, acceptable. Some of you demonstrated effective Quirk supernatural integration. Others, her eyes lingered on a team that appeared thoroughly defeated, need significant improvement. The purpose of these exercises, Present Mike continued, is to prepare you for the new reality of hero work. Villains are increasingly combining Quirk technology with supernatural elements. Traditional Quirk counters aren't always effective against mystical threats. Mirko nodded toward Issei's team. Bakugo, Gremory, Hyodo, good example of power complementarity. Explosion Quirk for mobility and ranged attack, destruction magic for containment, Dragon Manif. Issei for power amplification and disruption. Other teams received similar assessments, with Mirko highlighting successful strategies and Present Mike enthusiastically pointing out improvement areas. Throughout the debriefing, Issei found his gaze drawn repeatedly to the monitoring device Momo had created. It had accurately predicted each manifestation window, proving invaluable during the exercise. After dismissal, Students scattered to recovery areas and changing rooms. Issei headed for the water fountains, dehydration a side effect of sacred gear usage according to Drake. Impressive performance with the boosted gear. He turned to find Akeno Himahima leaning by. The half-fallen angel's training uniform featured subtle modifications, reinforced sections designed to accommodate her occasionally manifesting wings. Thanks, Issei replied, somewhat warily. His interactions with Akeno had been limited since the bank incident, but Drake maintained a cautious attitude toward fallen angels. The drain issue is common with sacred gear users, she continued, approaching the adjacent fountain. Fallen angel temples developed meditation techniques that might help. They balance spiritual energy pathways to reduce manifestation cost. The offer seemed genuine. Why would you help me with that? A smile played across her lips. Not all fallen angels align with extremists like Kokobile. Some of us believe in bridging worlds, not exploiting them. She brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. Besides, sacred gear users are rare. It would be a shame to see potential wasted due to simple stamina issues. Her aura is complex, Drake noted. Fallen angel heritage, yes, but something else too. Shrine maiden training perhaps. Drake says you have shrine maiden training. Surprise flickered across Akeno's features. The Red Dragon Emperor's perception is impressive. Yes, my mother was a shrine maiden before. She hesitated, something vulnerable crossing her express. Ion before being replaced by her usual composed smile. Let's just say I have a complicated heritage. Much like your Quirk sacred gear combination. Before their conversation could continue, Momo approached from the training grounds. Issei-san, the monitoring device data is fascinating. Your energy signature stabilized much faster during the second manifestation. Her excitement was palpable as she pulled out a tablet displaying comparative charts. See these harmonic patterns. They're almost synchronized now. Akeno observed their interaction with amused interest. I'll leave you to your scientific analysis. But my offer stands, Hyodo-kun. Meditation techniques could complement Yaoyorozu's excellent monitoring work. She nodded respectfully to Momo before departing. Was I interrupting something? Momo asked, suddenly self-conscious. Not at all, Issei assured her. Akeno was offering some fallen angel techniques for energy management. Could be useful alongside your scientific approach. Momo brightened. Cross-disciplinary methodology. Exactly what Principal Nezu encourages. She scrolled through more data on her tablet. With proper energy management and continued manifestation practice, your control should improve exponentially. Her genuine enthusiasm for his progress was refreshing after years of being dismissed as the student with the useless quirk. As they walked toward the main campus, Issei found himself appreciating both her analytical mind and her unwavering support. By the way, he said, holding up his wrist with her monitoring device, this worked perfectly. Predicted both manifestation windows exactly. Pride bloomed across her features. I'm glad. I incorporated feedback algorithms to improve accuracy with each use. It should become even more precise over time. You're amazing. You know that. The words slipped out before he could consider them. A blush colored her cheeks. I just apply what I've learned. Your Quirk sacred gear interaction is the truly fascinating element. Quote. Their conversation continued as they reached the main campus, discussing potential applications and improvements for both the monitoring device and Issei's manifestation techniques. The easy exchange of ideas felt natural, each building on the other's contributions. As they parted ways for afternoon classes, Momo hesitated. There's a research project I'm working on that might interest you. The support department discovered unusual energy readings beneath Musudafu last month, signatures that share characteristics with your dragon manifestation. Issei's interest piqued immediately. Really? What kind of signatures? It's preliminary, but, she lowered her voice, they appear to be ancient. Pre-Quirk, possibly pre-historical. I have access to the research database if you'd like to review it together. Definitely, he agreed without hesitation. When? Tonight. The development studio stays open until 9 for research students. I'll be there. As Momo headed toward her next class, Issei felt Drake's presence stir with unusual intensity. Ancient dragon signatures. After all this time, you know something about this. Perhaps. Before the worlds merged, dragon remnants were scattered across multiple realms. If they've coalesced in this new reality. Asterisk. The dragon's voice trailed off, thoughtful rather than alarming. Whatever Momo's research had discovered, it clearly resonated with Ddrag on a fundamental level. Afternoon classes passed in a blur of theory and practical applications. UA's curriculum had adapted to incorporate supernatural elements alongside traditional hero studies. History now included chapters on the Great War between biblical factions. Science classes covered both Quirk genetics and supernatural energy systems. Hero law addressed the complex legal status of non-human entities. By evening, exhaustion tugged at Issei's limbs, a combination of sacred gear usage and information overload. Still, anticipation kept him alert as he made his way to the development studio. The cavernous workshop hummed with activity even at this hour. Support students hunched over workbenches, testing equipment and refining designs. Holographic projections displayed evolving blueprints while 3D printers constructed prototype components. Momo waited near the research terminals, hair now tied back in a practical ponytail. She'd changed from her training uniform to casual clothes, a simple blouse and skirt that somehow maintained her innate elegance. "You came," she greeted, genuine pleasure in her voice. "Wouldn't miss it." Ddrag seemed interested too. They settled at a private research station where Momo had already queued up relevant files. The discovery was accidental, she explained, bringing up seismic survey data. The city commissioned underground mapping for subway expansion. These energy readings appeared in a cavern system approximately 70 meters below the financial district. The screen displayed wavelength patterns alongside geographical mapping. To a casual observer, they might have appeared as random fluctuations. To Issei, with Ddrag's perception enhancing his understanding, they resonated with meaning. Dragon script, Ddrag identified. Ancient and powerful, a sanctum perhaps, or a vault. Asterisk. Ddrag says it's dragon script, Issei relayed. He thinks it might be some kind of sanctuary or vault. Momo's eyes widened. That would correlate with the structural data. The cavern appears artificially constructed despite its age. She pulled up three-dimensional renderings. See these formations, too regular for natural processes. They spent the next 2 hours reviewing research data, with Issei translating Ddrag's insights. The dragon's knowledge, combined with Momo's scientific methodology, revealed patterns that neither would have identified alone. So according to Ddrag, these energy signatures are actually a form of draconic ward, magical protection designed to hide something important, Issei summarized. And the energy frequency matches your manifestation because it's tied to Ddrag specifically. He was one of the heavenly dragons, apparently. These wards recognize his energy signature. Momo sat back, processing the implications. Then theoretically, you could access whatever is hidden there. Theoretically, Issei agreed. Though Ddrag says the wards are intricate, it would require precise manifestation control I haven't mastered yet. Their research session might have continued longer if not for a notification on Momo's phone. Her expression shifted from engagement to concern as she read the message. "Problem?" Issei asked. "Perhaps." She showed him the screen, a security alert from UA's system. Unauthorized energy signature detected Nia supernatural in nature. As hero students with provisional licenses, they received limited security notifications. Most were routine, boundary testing by support. Department devices are false positives from training exercises. Probably nothing, Issei suggested, though Ddrag's sudden alertness suggested otherwise. Momo frowned. The timing is concerning. Night and Ectoplasm are conducting night patrol, so they'll investigate, but we happen to be researching unusual dragon energy signatures when another unusual energy signature appears, Issei finished her thought. Coincidence? Quote, "Not coincidence," Ddrag stated firmly. "The barrier between worlds grows thinner each day. What was hidden begins to emerge." Asterisk. Before they could discuss further, another alert appeared. This one a priority message for all Hero Course students. Emergency Protocol Alpha 3 activated. Supernatural entity incursion at East Campus boundary. All licensed NTS report to Assembly Point E for defensive deployment. They exchanged a single glance before moving in unison, research forgotten as they hurried toward the designated assembly point. Throughout the campus, other students responded to the same alert. some still in training gear, others in casual clothes, all moving with practiced urgency. Assembly Point E was a reinforced shelter near the eastern boundary, designed as a coordination center for campus defense. Midnight awaited them, her expression serious as students arrived in groups. Situation report, she began without preamble. Multi-PLE supernatural entities have breached the outer barrier. Identification pending, but energy signatures suggest fallen angel origin. They appear to be targeting the supernatural program facilities specifically. The assembled students absorbed this information with professional focus. After 3 years of integrated education, the distinction between quirk-based and supernatural threats had blurred. All were simply challenges requiring appropriate response. Deployment strategy, Midnight continued. Defensive perimeter teams will reinforce faculty members at key positions. Evacuation teams will secure supernatural program students who may be specific targets. Counter-offensive teams stand by for tactical response once we identify the intruders. Objective. Team assignments appeared on the shelter's display screen. Issei found himself assigned to counter-offensive alongside Bakugo and, surprisingly, Akeno Himehima. Counter-offensive Team 2, report to Mirko at East Quadrant deployment point, Midnight instructed. As they moved out, Momo caught Issei's arm briefly. Be careful, the research data suggests these incidents might be connected. You too, he replied. Your Chion quirk makes you valuable in any defensive scenario. Bakugo, already in his hero costume, interrupted impatiently. Save the goodbyes for later. We've got actual work to do. Outside, the night air carried an unnatural chill. Campus floodlights illuminated the grounds, creating sharp shadows that seemed to move independently of their sources. In the distance, flashes of light indicated ongoing engagement. They found Mirko crouched atop the eastern dormitory roof, her enhanced senses surveying the battlefield. She acknowledged their arrival with a curt nod. 6 intruders, definitely Fallen angels based on light weapon signatures. They breached the eastern barrier using some kind of dimensional disruption device. She pointed toward the Supernatural Studies building. Thereafter, something specific in the sealed archives. Aizawa and Present Mike are engaging the main group, but 2 have broken through toward the objective. Akeno stepped forward, her expression uncharacteristically serious. Fallen angels targeting supernatural archives suggests they're seeking information, not confrontation. Likely related to sacred relics or ritual knowledge. Or dragon artifacts, Issei added. Connecting to their earlier research. Mirko's eyes narrowed. Elaborate. Quickly, Issei summarized what he and Momo had discovered about the underground dragon signatures. The timing can't be coincidence. Agreed, Mirko stated. New objective. Intercept the 2 infiltrators at the archives. Prevent data theft and capture for interrogation if possible. As they moved toward the Supernatural Studies building, Akeno's demeanor shifted subtly. The playful, somewhat teasing quality she usually projected disappeared, replaced by focused intensity. Black wings, previously only hinted at, now manifested fully from her back. Spanning nearly 4 meters, half-fallen angel combat manifestation, she explained, noting their surprise. More efficient for aerial mobility. Bakugo ignited small explosions in his palms. Whatever works. Just don't get in my way when things get hot. They reached the Supernatural Studies building to find the main entrance destroyed. Inside, display cases lay shattered and mystical artifacts scattered across the floor. The path of destruction led directly toward the sealed archives in the building's eastern wing. Mirko signaled for stealth as they approached the archive entrance. Inside, they could hear voices, 2 figures in hooded robes examining a sealed containment unit. This isn't it, one said, frustration evident. The coordinates were specific. The convergence must have shifted the dimensional alignment, the second replied. The artifact should be here. What artifact specifically? The first demanded. Kokobile wasn't exactly forthcoming with details. The name caused Akeno to stiffen. She whispered to her teammates, Kokobile is a Gremory leader, Fallen Angel War faction. If he's involved, this is more serious than a simple theft attempt. Mirko assessed the situation rapidly. Bakugo, concussive distraction on my signal. Himehima, left flank containment. Hyodo, right flank with dragon manifestation ready. Objective is capture, not elimination. Issei reached for the now familiar heat within, feeling D-Drake's presence surge in response to the fallen angel's proximity. The scaled arm manifested smoothly. With minimal strain, his practice sessions paying dividends. These are not high-ranking fallen, D-Drake assessed. Foot soldiers at best, but dangerous nonetheless. Mirko raised 3 fingers, counting down silently. At 0, Bakugo launched a controlled explosion directly above the intruders, filling the archive with smoke and sound. The rabbit hero moved instantly, her powerful legs launching her through the chaos. She connected with the first fallen angel, driving him into a bookshelf with precision force. Akeno took flight, her hands crackling with yellow lightning, a distinctive fallen angel ability. Light of purification, she intoned, sending chains of lightning to ensnare the second intruder. Issei moved to block the exit, scaled arm radiating draconic energy. Surrender now, he commanded, surprised at the authority in his voice. The fallen angel Mirko had struck recovered quickly, black wings spreading as he prepared for flight. Dragon vessel, he hissed, recognition in his eyes. Kokobile was right, you've awakened. Light spears formed in both intruders' hands, golden energy condensed into lethal weapons. They attacked simultaneously, one targeting Mirko while other launched spears toward Akeno and Issei. Bakugo intercepted the attack on Mirko with a precisely aimed explosion, detonating the light spear mid-flight. These light sticks aren't crap against my Quirk, he taunted. Issei blocked 2 spears with his scaled arm, the dragon energy neutralizing their holy element. The third spear, however, caught him in the shoulder, a grazing hit that nonetheless burned with unnatural intensity. Boost now, D-Drake instructed. Light weapons require counterforce. Boost, Issei called, the jewel in his palm flashing green. Power surged through him as the wound in his shoulder began to close, an unexpected healing effect of the dragon energy. Akeno engaged her opponent directly, her lightning chains clashing against light spears integral combat. Despite being half-fallen, her techniques showed none of her opponent's weaknesses. You disgrace our kind, she told the fallen angel coldly. Kokobile's warmongering ended with the Great War. The war never ended, her opponent snarled. The merger simply changed the battlefield. Mirko coordinated their efforts with hand signals, maneuvering the fallen angels into a pincer position. Bakugo launched precision explosions to limit their aerial mobility while Akeno's lightning forced them lower. Issei, boosted strength now at peak, positioned himself for the final containment move. Now, Mirko commanded. Issei slammed his scaled fist into the floor, creating a shockwave that disrupted the fallen angel's flight. As they staggered, Mirko and Bakugo struck simultaneously, Mirko's kick connecting with one intruder's spine while Bakugo's explosion blasted the other into a containment field Akeno had prepared. The coordinated attack succeeded perfectly. Both fallen angels lay unconscious, their wings dissolving into particles of light as their powers deactivated. Secure and contain, Mirko ordered, already binding the first intruder with specialized restraints designed for supernatural entities. As they secured the scene, Issei examined the containment unit the fallen angels had targeted. The reinforced case housed what appeared to be ancient scrolls covered in familiar markings, dragon script. Identical to the patterns they'd observed in the underground energy readings. They were after dragon artifacts specifically, he realized aloud. Akeno approached, her wings now retracted. Though electricity still danced between her fingertips. Kokobile has always been obsessed with power. Dragon artifacts would represent significant leverage in supernatural politics. Mirko finished securing the prisoners. Question is, how did they know about these artifacts? The merger revealed many previously hidden relics, but specific targeting suggests inside information. Outside, the sounds of combat had ceased. Campus security alerts downgraded from emergency to containment status, indicating the remaining intruders had been neutralized or repelled. Aizawa appeared in the doorway, his capture weapon rewinding around his neck. Despite a small cut above his eye, he seemed relatively unharmed. Situation contained. 4 intruders captured, 2 escaped via dimensional portal. He surveyed their successful capture with approval. Well-executed counter-offensive. As faculty security teams arrived to transport the prisoners, Issei felt the boost's effect fade. Exhaustion followed immediately, though less severely than in previous manifestations. His endurance was improving incrementally. We should check on the other artifacts, Akino suggested. If they targeted dragon relics specifically. Mirko nodded. Hyodo, your dragon can identify relevant items. Yes. D-Drake recognizes dragon script and energy signatures. They conducted a rapid inventory of the supernatural archives, with Issei identifying 3 additional artifacts with dragon connections. All remained secure, though one, a crystalline orb with internal flame-like patterns, resonated strongly with his sacred gear. Dragon Heart Crystal, D-Drake identified. Used for communication between dragon clans in ancient times. Significant that they didn't target it. Asterisk. Either they didn't know about it, Issei relayed, or it wasn't what they were looking for. Their assessment complete, Mirko dispatched them to the post-incident assembly point for debriefing. As they exited the building, Issei found Momo waiting anxiously. Relief washed over her features when she saw him. "You're all right," she said, quickly composing herself. The defensive perimeter held successfully. No casualties reported. "We captured 2 intruders," Issei informed her. "They were specifically targeting dragon artifacts, just as we suspected." Her eyes widened. "Then the underground signatures. Likely connected." "Yes." Bakugo, overhearing their exchange, interjected. "What underground signatures? If there's relevant intel, spill it now before we waste time in debriefing." Together, Issei and Momo explained their research findings to Bakugo, Akino, and Mirko. The rabbit hero listened intently, her expression growing increasingly serious. "So there's potentially a dragon sanctuary beneath Musudafu. That's somehow connected to Hyodo's sacred gear, and fallen angels working for a war faction leader are targeting dragon artifacts." She shook her head. "This just got a lot more complicated than a simple security breach." "We should investigate the underground site," Akino suggested. "If fallen angels are targeting dragon artifacts, that location could be their primary objective." Mirko considered this. "Agreed, but not tonight. We secure what we know, debrief properly, and prepare a coordinated investigation." She fixed each of them with a stern look. "That means no unauthorized expeditions." "Clear." They all nodded, though Issei noted Bakugo's reluctant agreement. As they headed toward the debriefing area, Momo fell into step beside Issei. "Your shoulder, you were injured." He too shed the torn fabric where the light spear had grazed him. "It's healed already. Dragon energy apparently has regenerative properties." "Fascinating," she murmured, scientists' curiosity overriding immediate concern. The practical applications of controlled dragon manifestation continued to expand. Their conversation paused as they reached the assembly area where Principal Nezu was coordinating post-incident procedures. The small principal's expression remained calm despite the chaos, his modified form, now permanently displaying some yokai characteristics since the merger, moving efficiently between faculty groups. "Ah, team counter-offensive too. Excellent work securing the intruders and preventing artifact theft. Full debriefing in conference room C, please." The next hour passed in detailed reporting and analysis. The fallen angels' incursion appeared well planned but rushed, as if operating on a tight timeline. Their specific interest in dragon artifacts confirmed the connection to Issei's awakening and the underground signatures. In light of these developments, Nezu concluded, "We will accelerate the investigation of the subsurface anomalies. A specialized team will be assembled for a controlled expedition within 48 hours. Mirko immediately volunteered. "I'll lead the underground reconnaissance. My combat style is well suited for confined environments. I request inclusion as well." Momo stated formally. "My creation Quirk can provide specialized equipment as needed, and I'm familiar with the research data." Nezu nodded approvingly. "Granted. Hyodo, your participation is essential given the dragon connection. Bakugo, your precision explosives could be valuable for controlled excavation if needed." He turned to Akino. "Himahima, your supernatural knoll, DGE and fallen angel insight would be beneficial." With the team established, they received preliminary briefing materials and instructions to prepare for the expedition. After dismissal, students returned to dormitories under enhanced security protocols. The common area buzzed with excited discussion as students shared experiences from different defensive positions. Hiroshima recounted repellent GA fallen angel with his hardening quirk, while Uraraka described using zero gravity to protect younger students during evacuation. Issei found himself surrounded by classmates eager for details about the archive confrontation. The attention was still unfamiliar after years of being overlooked, but Ddrake's presence provided a grounding influence. They see the dragon now, not just the vessel, the ancient being observed. Power changes how humans perceive one another. Later, alone in his room, Issei reviewed the briefing materials for the upcoming expedition. Maps of the underground cavern system, energy reading analyses, and preliminary excavation plans filled his tablet screen. Despite physical exhaustion, his mind raced. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Opening the door revealed Rias Gremory, her crimson hair loose around her shoulders and her expression uncharacteristically serious. "May I come in? There's something you should know before tomorrow's expedition briefing." Issei hesitated briefly before stepping aside. "What is it?" Rias entered, her movements graceful despite evident tension. "The fallen angel's interest in dragon artifacts isn't random. There's a prophecy in Devil archives about the world merger and the return of dragons." This was unexpected. A prophecy. About me. Not you specifically, but about a dragon vessel arising when worlds converge. It said this vessel would either restore the ancient balance or unleash chaos unbound. She sat at his desk chair, fingers interlaced. Devil scholars dismissed it as metaphorical until the worlds actually merged 3 years ago. Quote, "And now I show up with Ddrake awakening inside me," Issei concluded. Convenient timing. Precisely. Which is why various factions are suddenly very interested in you, and in anything dragon-related. Her teal eyes studied him intently. "Tomorrow's expedition isn't just scientific research. You'll be walking into a site of significant prophetic importance." "She speaks truth," Ddrake confirmed, though devils rarely reveal such information without purpose. Why tell me this?" Issei asked directly. "What does House Gremory gain?" A smile curved Rias' lips. "Perceptive. The Gremory family has historically maintained positive relations with Dragonkant. We prefer to continue that tradition." She stood, moving toward the door. "Consider it a gesture of good faith. Knowledge freely given deserves knowledge in return. You want information about what we find tomorrow. I want to ensure whatever you find isn't manipulated by those who fear dragon power rather than respect it." She paused at the doorway. "History is written by victors, Issei. The stories you've heard about dragons as monsters and devils as villains were written by those who feared what they couldn't control." After she departed, Issei found himself staring at the expedition materials with new perspective. What had seemed a straightforward investigation now carried political and prophetic implications he hadn't considered. "She's right about one thing," Ddrake rumbled. "History has not been kind to Dragonkant. What awaits below may challenge everything you've been taught about the world before the merger." Are you saying there's truth to this prophecy? Dragons exist beyond time in ways humans cannot comprehend. What appears prophetic may simply be memory of what was, or will be. The cryptic response was typically draconic, but Issei had grown accustomed to Ddrake's perspective. Dragons viewed time differently, a perspective that made prophecy and history nearly indistinguishable. As midnight approached, exhaustion finally overcame curiosity. Issei set aside the briefing materials and prepared for sleep, knowing tomorrow would bring discoveries that might reshape his understanding of both his quirk and the dragon spirit he hosted. Outside his window, Musudafu's skyline glittered against the night sky. Somewhere beneath those lights, ancient T-Dragon secrets waited to be uncovered, secrets that connected to him in ways he was only beginning to understand. The dragon's voice accompanied him into dreams of underground caverns where massive, scaled beings soared through crystalline halls. Whether memory or premonition, only tomorrow would tell. Chapter 2 End Chapter 3, Internship Inferno. The eastern district of Musudafu stirred with RLY morning activity as Issei approached the unassuming 6-story building wedged between a convenience store and an electronics repair shop. Unlike the grandiose hero agencies downtown with their glaming facades and promotional billboards, Mirko's headquarters maintained a deliberately low profile, brushed aluminum and smoked glass with only a small rabbit logo beside the entrance indicating its purpose. Issei adjusted his UA internship uniform, the crisp fabric still stiff against his skin. After yesterday's exploration of the underground dragon sanctuary, which had yielded fascinating ruins, But more questions than answers. Beginning his internship felt almost like a return to normalcy. Almost. She values punctuality, Dietrich reminded him unnecessarily. And first impressions matter twice. Asterisk. You already made your first impression at the bank, Issei muttered. And the fallen angel incident. And the underground expedition. Different contexts. Professional environments have distinct expectations. Asterisk. The dragon's surprising concern for workplace etiquette might have amused Issei if not for the nervousness tightening his stomach. Mirko's reputation for intensity extended beyond combat to her mentorship approach. Stories circulated among UA students about interns who lasted mere hours before quitting. The agency's entrance opened to a Spartan reception area, polished concrete floors, minimalist furniture, and walls adorned with action photos of Mirko mid-combat. No receptionist greeted visitors. Instead, a streamlined security system scanned his UA credentials before a panel slid open, revealing an elevator. Hyodo Issei, announced a precise electronic voice. Clearance level. Intern. Proceed to 5th floor training facility for orientation. The elevator ascended swiftly, depositing him in a cavernous training space that occupied the building's entire 5th floor. Impact-resistant walls surrounded various combat stations, speed training equipment, reinforced striking posts, and a central sparring area defined by glowing boundary lines. Mirko stood at the center, dressed not in her hero costume but in fitted athletic wear, her white hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Beside her, unexpectedly, stood Akeno Himahima, also in training attire that somehow managed to look elegant despite its practicality. 7:55, Mirko noted without looking at a clock. Punctual. Good start. Issei approached, curiosity overriding initial surprise. Akeno-san, are you interning here too? Before Akeno could answer, Mirko interjected. Himahima is he, under a special arrangement between UA and the Fallen Angel faction. After the recent incidents, supernatural oversight for sacred gear users became mandatory. I volunteered, Akeno added, her customary gentle smile in place. My background provides unique insight into the intersection of quirk and supernatural abilities. Issei sensed an unspoken subtext. You mean you're here to keep an eye on me? To assist your development, she corrected smoothly, and to ensure fallen angel knowledge is properly represented. Rias isn't the only one with valuable perspectives. Mirko's ears twitched with impatience. Politics later. Training now. She gestured toward the central space. Manifestation test. Show me your current maximum duration with the sacred gear. Without preamble or warm-up, Issei centered himself and reached for the now familiar heat within. The transition came more easily each time, warmth flowing from chest to arm, crimson scales materializing with fluid precision. The emerald jewel embedded in his palm pulsed with steady rhythm. Good, Mirko observed, circling him analytically. Manifestation time improved by 0.4 seconds since our last session. Now, maintain it while completing basic combat drills. Quote, what followed was 90 minutes of grueling exercises designed to test both quirk endurance and combat fundamentals. Throughout, Mirko offered terse correct ions while Akeno observed with thoughtful attention, occasionally suggesting slight adjustments to his energy channeling. Your form shifts when you're manifested, Mirko noted during a brief water break. Dragon instincts influencing your muscle memory. Interesting but inefficient. You're fighting like two separate entities instead of one integrated system. Akeno approached, her expression contemplative. May I? She gestured toward his scaled arm. When he nodded, she placed her FIIS forearm, a subtle current of energy passing between them. Your spiritual pathways are bifurcated. Human energy and dragon energy running parallel instead of merging. Her touch traced the path of an invisible current. Traditional fallen angel meditation techniques could help harmonize the flow. Mirko watched their interaction with professional interest. Spiritual pathway integration, similar to the techniques used by supernatural quirk users in underground fighting circuits. She made a note on her tablet. Incorporate into afternoon training schedule. The morning session concluded with practical application, a simulated rescue scenario where Issei had to maintain manifestation while completing precision tasks. His performance, while improved, highlighted the ongoing challenge of balancing power and control. 78% completion rate, Mirko assessed bluntly. Below acceptable standards for field deployment. Before disappointment could settle, she added, but 30% improvement from baseline. Acceptable progress trajectory. Coming from her, it felt like high praise. Clean up and meet in the strategy room in 15 minutes, she instructed. This afternoon, we moved from training to field work. As they headed toward the facilities, Akeno fell into step beside Issei. You're adapting remarkably quickly to the sacred gear. Most new wielders require months to achieve stable manifestation. Drake says the Dragon Sage quirk creates natural compatibility, he explained, flexing his now normal hand. The two systems reinforce each other. Convenient, she observed, something unreadable flickering in her violet eyes. Almost as if it were designed that way. Before he could question her meaning, they reached the locker rooms, conversation paused by necessity. 15 minutes later, refreshed and changed into patrol uniforms, they assembled in the strategy room, a space dominated by digital maps and surveillance feeds. Mirko stood before a holographic display of Musudafu's eastern district, various locations highlighted in different colors. 3 priorities for today's patrol. First, standard hero operations, visible presence, incident response, civilian assistance. Second, Quirk supernatural integration assessment, identifying locations where both systems interact. Third, information gathering on specific persons of interest. She expanded one section of the map, focusing on an area bordering the warehouse district and entertainment zone. Recent reports indicate unusual activity patterns. Witnesses describe individuals with rare quirks entering establishments but not exiting through normal channels. Trafficking, Issei suggested grimly, possibly, or recruitment for underground operations. Mirko manipulated the display, bringing up a series of incident reports. 7 missing persons in the past month, all with uncommon quirk manifestations. Police investigation stalled due to jurisdictional complications between human and supernatural authorities. Akeno studied the reports with practiced efficiency. These disappearances correlate with supernatural energy fluctuations recorded by shrine monitoring systems. She indicated specific timestamps. Particular peaks occur in the boundary areas between traditional Yakuza territory and devil-controlled entertainment venues. The mention of devil territories triggered Issei's memory. Rias mentioned something about this during the underground expedition. Devil factions establishing business operations in merged areas. House Phoenix specifically, Akeno confirmed, her usual serene expression hardening slightly. They've acquired substantial real estate in the Eastern Entertainment District, ostensibly for legitimate business ventures. Mirko's ears perked with interest. Gremory's rival house, that contextualizes some intelligence reports. She pulled up additional data, property acquisitions, business registrations, permit applications. Phoenix operations expanded dramatically 6 weeks ago, coinciding with the first disappearance. And with my sacred gear awakening, Issei noted. The timing too precise for coincidence. Sacred gears alter supernatural politics, Akeno explained. Particularly dragon-type artifacts. Some factions would view your emergence as a threat, others as an opportunity to exploit. Mirko marked several locations on the map. These are our primary surveillance points for today's patrol. We observe, document, and assess. No engagement unless public safety requires intervention. Her stern gaze fixed on both interns. This is information gathering, not a raid. Clear. Both nodded, understanding the delicate balance between hero work and supernatural politics. Conventional hero operations followed established protocols. Cases involving supernatural factions required more nuanced approaches. Comms check, Mirko continued. Distributing specialized earpieces. These operate on both standard hero frequencies and mystical resonance bands. Maintain contact at all times, even if conventional communications are disrupted. Equipment verified and strategy established, they departed through the agency's discreet side exit. Mirko led them across rooftops rather than streets, her preferred patrol method at sea. Ombeamed visibility for the public below with tactical advantage for heroes. The Eastern District unfolded beneath them, a patchwork of architectural styles reflecting Musudafu's evolution. Traditional L structures stood alongside modern developments, with occasional supernatural modifications evident to trained eyes. Spirit wards incorporated into building facades, mystical boundary markers embedded in sidewalks. subtle runic protections woven into infrastructure. Mirko moved with effortless efficiency, her powerful legs carrying her across gaps that would challenge most heroes. Issei kept pace through sheer determination. While Akeno occasionally manifested partial wings for difficult traversals, black feathers materializing briefly before dissolving back into shadow. Their first observatee, On Point, overlooked a busy commercial intersection where 3 nightclubs operated under Fennec's management. From their elevated position, they monitored patron movements while Mirko's enhanced senses detected conversations far below. Bouncers Quirk screening patrons, she noted, indicating a muscular man at the primary entrance. Favoring certain types for immediate entry while redirecting others to secondary locations. Akeno focused on a different aspect, a subtle crimson glow visible only to those with supernatural sensitivity. Devil contract circle embedded in the VIP entrance. Standard for legitimate operations, but the configuration suggests modified purpose. Issei activated a specialized lens in his visor, a support item Momo had created specifically for his internship. It enhanced his ability to perceive dragon-related energy signatures while filtering other supernatural frequencies. There's something beneath the main building, he observed. Faint dragon energy, possibly artifact derived rather than biological. Mirko documented their observations via her communicator, adding another layer to the developing intelligence profile. Consistent with previous reports, Fennec's operations incorporate dragon artifacts as power amplifiers and detection shields. They continued their patrol, gathering similar intelligence at 6 additional locations. Patterns emerged: selective recruitment, underground facilities, strategic positioning near boundary zones where jurisdiction became ambiguous. Throughout, Issei found his perception growing sharper, D-Drake's influence enhancing his ability to identify supernatural elements that would have been invisible weeks earlier. At their 7th observation point, overlooking a seemingly abandoned warehouse, activity patterns changed. Delivery vehicles, Mirko noted, tracking the movement of unmarked vans. 3rd in the past hour. Too frequent for legitimate operations in a defunct facility. Akeno concentrated, a faint T-purple aura briefly surrounding her Har concentration inside. Mixed signatures, Quirk energy and devil magic, interacting in unusual configurations. Before they could investigate further, their communicators crackled with emergency alerts. Multiple incidents reported simultaneously across the district, a coordination too precise for coincidence. Diversion tactics, Mirko concluded immediately. Create public emergencies to draw hero response away from the primary operation. She accessed the agency's deployment system through her wrist device. 7 reported incidents, all requiring hero response. Issei studied the alert pattern. They're strategically positioned to draw maximum resources from this sector. Standard response protocols would clear this entire area of hero presence, Akeno agreed. Mirko made a swift decision. We split. I'll handle the highest priority incident, building collapse on 8th Street. You two investigate the secondary explosion at Eastwood Apartments, 3 blocks south. Assist civilians, but maintain observation of this warehouse. Whatever they're moving, they're doing it now while heroes are distracted. The rabbit hero was gone before they could respond, her powerful form launching across rooftops toward the emergency. Issei and Akeno exchanged determined looks before moving toward their assigned incident. Smoke billowed from the mid-level floors of Eastwood Apartments. Residents evacuating in panicked streams while emergency services established perimeter control. As they approached, Issei activated his sacred gear, Crimson SC. Ailes materializing along his arm with practiced ease. Structural assessment first, he suggested, falling into rescue protocols ingrained through UA training. Then victim location and extraction prioritization. Akeno nodded, her expression focused as they entered the building through a service entrance. Inside, smoke-filled hallways while sprinkler systems struggled against spreading flames. Issei's enhanced senses detected movement 3 floors above, trapped residents unable to reach evacuation routes. 8th floor, northeast corner, he reported. At least 4 civilians, possibly more. All secure the stairwell, Akeno decided. You handle extraction. They moved with coordinated efficiency, Akeno's lightning abilities creating controlled electrical fields that disrupted the fires spread while Issei ascended to the affected area. The apartment door was jammed, either from heat warping or deliberate obstruction. Boost. Drake suggested. Controlled application. Asterisk. Boost. The sacred gear's jewel flashed as power surged through Issei's system. With doubled strength, he wrenched the door free, revealing a family of 5 huddled near windows as smoke filled their home. Hero intern from Mirko agency. He announced, projecting calm authority despite the chaos. We're getting you out safely. The extraction proceeded efficiently, with Issei guiding the family through reinforced sections of hallway where Akeno maintained electrical barriers against advancing flames. As they reached the ground floor, emergency services took charge of the civilians, medical personnel assessing for injuries. That was too easy, Akeno observed quietly, watching firefighters battle the blaze. Controlled ignition points, minimal structural damage despite impressive visual effects. Issei agreed. Designed to draw response without creating actual catastrophe. Efficient use of resources if your goal is distraction rather than destruction. They reported their assessment to Mirko, who confirmed similar patterns at her location. Return to warehouse surveillance, she instructed. I've alerted other agencies to the diversion pattern. Additional heroes redirecting to cover legitimate emergencies. As they returned to their observation point, the warehouse showed increased activity, more vehicles arriving, personnel moving with greater urgency. Through his specialized lens, Issei detected stronger dragon energy signatures, pulsing in rhythmic patterns. They're activating something, he reported. Dragon artifact with increasing power output. Akeno's expression grew concerned. We should request backup. Devil-dragon hybrid technologies can be exceptionally dangerous. Before they could contact Mirko, the warehouse's main doors opened, revealing an unexpected figure emerging from the shadows. Tall and blonde, dressed in an immaculate crimson suit that seemed to shimmer with internal heat, his aristocratic features arranged in an expression of casual superiority. Riser Phoenix, Akeno identified, tension evident in her normally composed voice. High-ranking devil, third son of the Phoenix clan. Regenerative fire abilities make him nearly immortal in conventional combat. Issei studied their target with growing concern. Even from this distance, the devil's power radiated visibly, a heat haze surrounding his form, distorting the air like asphalt on summer days. He's overseeing the operation personally, Issei noted. Whatever they're moving must be significant. Their observation was interrupted by Mirko's voice through their communicators. Priority alert at your location. Energy spike detected by citywide monitoring systems. All available heroes converging. Confirmed visual on Riser Phoenix, Akeno reported. Artifact activation in progress. Recommend immediate containment response. Negative, came Mirko's sharp reply. Maintain observation only. Phoenix has diplomatic immunity through supernatural accords. We need evidence of specific violations before engagement. The situation escalated before they could respond. From the warehouse emerged a procession of individuals, approximately 20 people moving with unnatural synchronization. Their expressions vacant and steps mechanical. Behind them, devil subordinates monitored their movement while consulting tablet devices. Mind control, Issei realized with growing horror. They're not willing participants. Akeno's eyes narrowed, lightning crackling between her fingertips. Traditional devil contracts require consent, however manipulated. This violates even supernatural law. The procession entered an unmarked transport vehicle, its interior briefly visible, containment cells lined with inscriptions that glowed with supernatural energy. As the last individual entered, Riser Phoenix approached the vehicle, inspecting the security measures with casual arrogance. Quirk trafficking confirmed, Issei reported tensely. Subjects appear mentally compromised, requesting intervention authorization. Mirko's response came immediately. Evidence sufficient for probable cause. Intervention authorized under Public Safety Statute 35B. Additional heroes 7 minutes out. Proceed with caution. Containment priority, not capture. They moved instantly, years of training translating to fluid action. Akeno took flight, black wings fully manifested as she positioned herself to cut off aerial escape routes. Issei descended to ground level, scaled arm radiating draconic energy as he approached from the blind side of the transport vehicle. The operation's precision lasted exactly 3 seconds. A subordinate devil spotted Akeno's wings against the sky, shouting alarm. Riser Phoenix turned casually, flames erupting around his form as his eyes locked on Issei's approaching figure. "The dragon vessel," he observed, voice carrying an aristocratic accent. "How convenient that you've delivered yourself to us." Flames exploded outward in a devastating wave, forming the loading area into an inferno. Issei raised his scaled arm instinctively, draconic energy creating a partial shield against the supernatural fire. Even so, the heat drove him backward, concrete smoking beneath his feet. "Double boost required," Drake assessed. "His flames carry phoenix properties, regeneration and purification. Boost, boost," Issei called in rapid succession, power surging through his system as the sacred gear responded. With quadrupled strength and enhanced durability, he pushed forward through the flames, focusing on the transport vehicle rather than engaged from above. Violet lightning striking with surgical precision at devil subordinates attempting to secure the vehicle. "The contract circle," she called to Issei. Beneath the transport, they're preparing dimensional transit. Indeed, a massive magic circle had begun forming beneath the vehicle, crimson energy inscribing complex patterns into the pavement. If completed, it would allow instantaneous transport to a predetermined location, likely a facility beyond hero jurisdiction. Issei redirected his approach, dragon-scaled fingers digging into concrete as he tore through the loading dock toward the developing circle. Riser's flames pursued him, supernatural fire that burned hotter than any natural conflagration. "Futile," the devil taunted, conjuring a concentrated fireball that streaked toward Issei's position. "House Phoenix has perfected dragon containment over centuries. Your sacred gear is impressive but unrefined." The fireball impacted directly against Issei's chest, exploding with concussive force that sent him crashing into stacked shipping containers. Pain lanced through his system as regenerative flames began consuming his uniform, burning with unnatural persistence. "Water aspect," Drake suggested urgently. "Access Mizuchi's domain. I don't know how," Issei gasped, struggling to extinguish the clinging flames. "Conceptualize. Dragons transcend elemental boundaries. Before he could process the cryptic instruction, Akeno descended beside him, her lightning forming a protective dome around their position. "Phoenix flames require counter-element," she explained rapidly. "Lightning disrupts the regenerative properties temporarily." Through their temporary shelter, they observed Riser directing the completion of the transit circle, now glowing with intensifying energy. The transport vehicle's engine started, preparing for dimensional departure with its human cargo. "We can't let them complete that circle," Issei stated, determination overriding pain. "Those people, they're being trafficked for their quirks." Akeno nodded grimly. "Direct confrontation with Riser is inadvisable. His immortality makes conventional combat ineffective. We need to disrupt the circle's formation instead." Issei's mind raced through options, Drake's strategic knowledge blending with his hero training. The power source. There must be an anchor point channeling energy into the circle. Scanning the area through pain-blurred vision, he identified an unusual configuration near the warehouse entrance, a crystalline structure pulsing with familiar energy. Dragon Heart Crystal, he recognized. Like the one in UA's archives. They're using it to power the transit circle. Akeno followed his gaze. "I can disrupt it temporarily with concentrated lightning, but not destroy it from this distance." "Create an opening," Issei requested, determination hardening his voice. "I'll handle the crystal." Their lightning dome collapsed as Akeno redirected her power, NDING. A massive electrical surge toward the devil subordinates guarding the crystal. The diversion worked. Attention shifted toward this new threat, including Riser's irritated glare. "Amusing but inadequate," the devil commented, gesturing dismissively. Two subordinates broke from formation, transformed wings carrying them toward Akeno's position with unnatural speed. Issei seized the opportunity, launching himself toward the crystal with boosted strength. Pain hampered his movement, Phoenix flames still clinging to portions of his uniform, but determination drove him forward. 3 bounds carried him to the warehouse entrance. Scaled hand outstretched toward the pulsing crystal. He never reached it. Riser appeared before him in a swirl of flames, movement too swift for normal perception. "Predictable," the devil stated. Casual contempt in his voice. His hand closed around Issei's throat, supernatural strength lifting him effortlessly. "House Phoenix anticipated UA's interest in our operations. Your intervention was factored into our timeline. Proximity to the devil intensified the burning pain as Riser's flames licked across Issei's skin. Through watering eyes, he saw the transport vehicle beginning to sink into the transit circle, its human cargo moments from disappearing beyond reach. Why? Issei managed through constricted breath. Why traffic Quirk users? Something like genuine amusement crossed Riser's aristocratic features. Traffic. Such a crude term for evolutionary acceleration. His grip tightened. Devils have guided human development for millennia. The Quirk phenomenon is simply the latest phase requiring our stewardship. The transport vehicle descended further, now half submerged in crimson energy. In the distance, sirens approached, hero reinforcements arriving too late to prevent the transit. Desperation fueled Issei's next action. Rather than struggling against Riser's grip, he reached toward the dragon heart crystal, still meters beyond his grasp. Instead of physical contact, he extended his awareness toward it, following Ddrake's earlier suggestion. Conceptualize. Dragons transcend elemental boundaries. The crystal pulsed in response to his draconic energy. Recognition passing between kindred entities. Through this tenuous connection, Issei sensed the crystal's nature, not merely a power source but a communication nexus, signed to resonate with specific draconic frequencies. Riser noticed the interaction, his expression shifting from amusement to concern. Impossible. The harmonization process requires centuries of now. With Ddrake's prompting, Issei channeled his energy not against Riser but through the crystal itself, momentarily hijacking its resonance pattern. The effect was immediate and spectacular. E-transit circles carefully constructed patterns distorted, crimson energy fluctuating wildly as the transport vehicle's descent halted mid-process. Stabilize the matrix, Riser shouted to his subordinates. Grip loosening as he turned toward the disrupted operation. Issei seized the opening, scaled hand closing around Riser's wrist. Boost, he called, channeling the sacred gear's power directly into contact with the devil's flames. For a crucial moment, draconic energy neutralized Phoenix regeneration, allowing Issei to break free and roll away from his captor. Chaos erupted across the loading area. The destabilized transit circle began emitting erratic energy pulses, disrupting both Quirk and supernatural abilities in its vicinity. Devil subordinates scrambled to contain the fluctuations while maintaining security against the approaching hero response. Akeno rejoined Issei, her uniform singed but determination undiminished. The circle's collapsing, she observed, lightning still crackling between her fingertips. But the destabilization energy could be equally dangerous. Indeed, the failing transit circle now emitted waves of chaotic supernatural force, concrete cracking. Beneath its influence as dimensional boundaries strained. The transport vehicle remained half submerged, its occupants visible through windows, expressions shifting from vacant to terrified as mental control fluctuated. We need to extract those people before the circle fully collapses, Issei stated, already moving toward the vehicle despite his injuries. Riser intercepted him, flames now concentrated into blade-like projections extending from his hands. Your interference has become tedious, the devil declared, aristocratic composure cracking. House Phoenix will not be thwarted by an untrained sacred gear wielder. Before their confrontation could escalate, a white blur streaked between them, Mirko arriving with characteristic dramatic timing. Her powerful leg connected with Riser's chest, the impact sending him skidding backward despite his supernatural durability. Diplomatic immunity doesn't cover Quirk trafficking, Phoenix, she stated, landing in a combat-ready stance. The supernatural accords are quite specific about that limitation. Riser straightened, adjusting his now rumpled suit with affected casualness. Legitimate business operations by heroes constitutes its own violation, rabbit. Flames regenerated around his form. House Phoenix will file formal complaints with both human and supernatural authorities. File away, Mirko replied, unimpressed. Meanwhile, we're extracting those civilians. Additional heroes arrived, establishing perimeter control while assessment teams evaluated the destabilizing transit circle. Riser observed these developments with calculating eyes, clearly weighing options against changing circumstances. This operation is merely one of many, he finally stated, flames intensifying around him. The evolutionary guidance of humanity proceeds with or without this particular collection point. His gaze shifted to Issei. As for you, Dragon Vessel, your awakening proceeds exactly as anticipated. We will meet again when your understanding has matured. Before anyone could respond, Riser's form erupted into a pillar of flames that shot skyward, bypassing Akino's aerial containment and dispersing into particles that quickly faded from perception. Several Devil subordinates similarly escaped, while others remained trapped by hero containment measures. Typical Devil exit strategy, Akino commented, landing beside Issei and Mirko. Theatrical and difficult to prevent without specialized sealing techniques. Mirko was already focused on the immediate crisis, the transport vehicle and its occupants still partially merged in the destabilizing transit circle. Assessment, she demanded from the support team that had arrived with her. Critical instability, reported a hero with analysis equipment. Circle collapse imminent, estimated 3 minutes before catastrophic dimensional feedback. Translation. Big boom, Mirko clarified grimly. Evacuation radius, minimum 200 meters, but the Quirk users trapped in transit state will definitely be lost. Issei studied the failing circle, Diedrag's knowledge providing insights beyond conventional analysis. The crystal is still functioning as an anchor point, he observed. If we could stabilize just that component, we might create an extraction window. Akino quickly grasped his meaning. Like holding open a collapsing doorway just long enough for people to exit. Exactly, but it would require precise energy control and dragon aspect manifestation, Akino finished. Specifically calibrated to the crystal's resonance frequency. Mirko assessed their exchange with sharp efficiency. Time frame, 90 seconds for setup, maybe 30 seconds of viable extraction window, Issei estimated. Assuming I can successfully manifest the correct aspect. The rabbit hero made an instant decision. Do it. Extraction teams, prepare for rapid deployment on my signal. Himahima, energy containment support. They moved with practiced coordination. Hero teams positioning for optimal response while Akino began establishing a containment field around the critical area. Issei approached the crystal cautiously, its pulsing energy now erratic and potentially dangerous to touch directly. Mizuchi, Diedrag identified. Water dragon aspect required. Flow, adaptation, purification. How do I access a specific aspect? Issei questioned internally, painfully aware of diminishing seconds. Visualization is the primitive method. Conceptualization is superior. Understand the fundamental nature of water dragon energy, not merely control of water, but embodiment of its essential qualities. The cryptic instruction might once have frustrated Issei. Now, with weeks of experience communicating with Diedrag, he understood the dragon's perspective. Not physical water, but the concept water represents. Adaptation, persistent flow, finding path through obstruction. Closing his eyes, Issei reached beyond his familiar crimson scales manifestation. Seeking a different resonance within the sacred gear. The jewel in his palm pulsed with changing rhythm, its usual emerald light shifting toward azure as he connected with this new aspect of draconic power. When his eyes opened, gasps from nearby hero teams confirmed the visible transformation. Blue-green scales replaced crimson along his arm, extending further than previous manifestations, varying his entire left side to the shoulder and spreading across his chest. The jewel in his palm now shimmered with cerulean light, droplets of luminescent energy orbiting around it. Water aspect manifestation successful, he reported. Voice carrying a subtle resonant quality it hadn't possessed before. Beginning stabilization. With newfound instinct, Issei extended his transformed hand toward the crystal. Not touching it physically but establishing energy connection through matched resonance. The erratic pulses gradually synchronized with his own draconic frequency, creating momentary harmony in the chaotic system. Extraction window opening, he called, strain evident in his voice. 30 seconds maximum. Mirko's teams deployed instantly, specialized equipment extending toward the half-submerged vehicle. The first civilians emerged confused but mobile, hero personnel guiding them quickly beyond the danger zone. 17 extracted, Mirko reported. 5 remaining inside. The strain of maintaining stability intensified as seconds passed, sweat beading on Issei's forehead while blue-green scales began fluctuating. The connection required constant adjustment as the Cr. Eastel's natural frequency deteriorated under mounting dimensional pressure. Can't Hold it. Much longer, he managed through gritted teeth. Akeno moved closer, her hands glowing with purple energy. Fallen angel stabilization technique, she explained, carefully placing her palms near his shoulders without disrupting his concentration. Temporary energy pathway reinforcement. Her support created precious additional seconds, allowing extraction teams to reach the final civilians. As the last person cleared the vehicle, Mirko called for immediate withdrawal. Containment teams, final positions. Hyodo, Himahima, disengage on my mark. The evacuation complete, only essential personnel remained within the danger radius, heroes with protective quirks establishing final containment layers around the imminent collapse point. Issei maintained connection through sheer willpower, buying crucial seconds for these preparations. Mark, Mirko commanded. Issei and Akeno disengaged simultaneously, her wings manifesting to carry them both clear as the crystal's stabilization failed completely. Behind them, the transit circle collapsed with surprising anticlimactic quiet, energy imploding rather than exploding, creating a momentary vacuum before dissipating into harmless residual particles. Specialized containment teams moved in to secure the remains while medical personnel attended to the rescued civilians. Initial assessment confirmed Issei's earlier observation. All victims had rare or unusual quirks, selected for specific attributes rather than random abduction. As adrenaline faded, exhaustion hit Issei with crushing force. The water aspect manifestation receded, scales dissolving into particles that faded from sight. He sat heavily on a nearby concrete barrier, breathing labored. Akeno knelt beside him, concern evident in her violet eyes. First aspect shift requires significant energy. Your reserves are completely depleted. Before he could respond, emergency shouts erupted from the warehouse interior. Fire spreading, chemical storage compromised. The residual energy from the collapsed transit circle had ignited conventional materials within the warehouse. A mundane but dangerous consequence of supernatural events. Flames spread with alarming speed, threatening both evidence collection and the surrounding industrial area. Firefighting teams deployed immediately, but an unexpected complication emerged as their initial water streams hit the flames. Fires rejecting water, called a support hero with assessment equipment. Residual Phoenix energy contamination, conventional extinguishing methods ineffective. Indeed, the flames displor, intensifying rather than diminishing when contacted with standard firefighting techniques. Specialized hero T. Ms. moved to evacuation protocols as containment efforts failed. Mirko appeared beside Issei and Akeno, her expression grimly practical. Phoenix flames require counter-element at the spiritual level, not physical. Can either of you? A tremendous explosion rocked the warehouse as chemical containers ruptured, sending a fireball skyward and showering the area with burning debris. One particularly large fragment arced toward a civilian evacuation route where medical teams were treating the rescued trafficking victims. Issei moved without conscious thought, exhaustion forgotten as he lunged toward the endangered civilians. Time seemed to slow as Diedrag's voice resonated through his consciousness. Water aspect, full manifestation, asterisk. Unlike his previous controlled implementation, this manifestation erupted from desperate necessity. Blue-green energy engulfed his entire body as scales covered him completely, his form shifting as draconic power responded to crisis. Water coalesced around him, not physical liquid but conceptual essence of water manifested through supernatural energy. He reached the civilian zone just as burning debris descended. Arms outstretched, he released the gas. Red energy in a massive wave that engulfed not only the immediate threat but expanded outward toward the warehouse itself. The water-nature energy collided with Phoenix flames, spiritual essence count. Ring supernatural fire at its fundamental level. Where conventional firefighting had failed, dragon aspect water succeeded spectacularly. Flames extinguished on contact, their regenerative properties neutralized by the purification aspect inherent in water dragon energy. The warehouse fire dimmed, then died completely as Issei's manifestation reached its climax. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the water aspect collapsed. Issei fell to his knees, energy completely depleted, scales dissolving as his body returned to human form. Darkness encroached at the edges of his vision, consciousness fading despite his efforts to remain awake. The last thing he perceived was Mirko's face, her expression showing something he'd never witnessed from the stern hero before, genuine impressed surprise. Not bad, Dragon Boy. Her voice reached him as if from great distance. Not bad at all. Consciousness returned gradually, sensory information filtering through layers of exhaustion. Antiseptic sense, muted conversations. The rhythmic beep of monitoring equipment, a medical facility, professional rather than emergency field treatment. Issei opened his eyes to find himself in a private recovery room. UA's medical wing based on the familiar decor. Afternoon sunlight slanted through partially drawn blinds, indicating several hours had passed since the warehouse operation. Welcome back to the land of the living, came a familiar voice. Rias Gremory sat in a visitor chair near the window, a tablet computer in her lap and a cup of tea on the side table beside her. Her crimson hair caught the sunlight, creating the impression of living flame, a somewhat unsettling image after recent events. How long? Issei managed, throat dry. 6 hours, she replied, setting aside her tablet and approaching with a water glass. Recovery support has accelerated your healing, but energy depletion from multiple aspect manifestations requires natural recuperation. As he sipped the offered water, Issei noted the formal observation bracelet on his wrist, UA's standard monitoring for unusual quirk manifestations or injuries. The device pulsed with subtle light, tracking his recovery metrics in real time. The civilians, he asked once his throat felt less raw. All 22 rescued successfully. Recovery hero teams are addressing the mental manipulation effects. Rias resumed her seat, studying him with those calculating teal eyes. You caused quite a stir, you know. Full water aspect manifestation is exceedingly rare, particularly in novice sacred gear users. Issei attempted to sit up, wincing as muscles protested. It wasn't intentional. More instinctive reaction than controlled implementation. The most powerful manifestations often are. Something like approval colored her tone. You're progressing faster than anyone anticipated, which creates both opportunities and complications. The statement carried clear subtext. Political complications, Issei translated. Like Riser Phoenix. At the devil's name, Rias's composed expression flickered briefly. Indeed. House Phoenix has already filed formal protests through supernatural diplomatic channels, claiming he RO interference in legitimate business operations. Legitimate. They were trafficking people. Of course they were, she agreed smoothly. But proving that requires evidence that survived the warehouse fire. Convenient timing. That explosion. The implication was clear. Riser had engineered the secondary explosion to destroy incriminating materials. Standard villain tactics, but executed with aristocratic precision. What happens now? Issei asked, frustration evident despite his exhaustion. Rias sipped her tea before answering. Officially, an investigation continues through proper channels. Unofficially, her voice lowered slightly, various factions are recalculating their positions based on your demonstrated abilities. Including House Gremory. A smile curved her lips. Perceptive. Yes. My family is particularly interested in the implications of multiple dragon aspect manifestation. Traditional understanding suggested sacred gear users required years to access secondary aspects. Before their conversation could continue, the door opened to admit Recovery Girl, followed by Mirko and Akino. The elderly healing hero approached Issei's bedside with professional efficiency, checking monitoring equipment before examining him directly. Accelerated recovery. As expected with dragon-type energy, she noted. Still, you pushed well beyond safe limits, young man. Even sacred gears have limitations. Mirko remained near the doorway, arms crossed as she observed the examination. Worth it for 22 rescued civilians and critical intelligence on Phoenix operations. Recovery Girl made a disapproving sound. Always the same with combat specialists. Results over safety protocols. She completed her assessment, stepping back with a satisfied nod. You're cleared for discharge tomorrow morning, provided you maintain complete rest today. After the healing hero departed, Akino approached Issei's bedside. Unlike her usually immaculate appearance, signs of the operation remained visible. A small bandage on her cheek, uniform replaced with casual clothes that couldn't quite hide faint bruising on her arms. Impressive manifestation, she said, genuine admiration in her voice. Most sacred gear users develop secondary aspects only under extreme training conditions. Yours emerged naturally under pressure. D-Drake says the Dragon Sage quirk creates unusual synergy, Issei explained, carefully shifting to a more comfortable position. The manifestation potential was always there, just waiting for the right catalyst. Mirko joined them, her professional demeanor firmly in place despite the recent crisis. Catalyst or not, it demonstrated capabilities beyond initial assessment parameters. Your internship training schedule will require significant adjustment. The statement carried approval rather than criticism, recognition of potential requiring appropriate development rather than limitation requiring containment. From Mirko, such acknowledgement represented substantial progress in their professional relationship. We've already begun coordination with supernatural consultants, she continued, nodding toward Akano. Himahima has proposed integration of fallen angel energy control techniques with conventional quirk training methodologies. Traditional sacred gear wielders relied heavily on emotion as a power source, Akano explained. Quote, but that approach creates vulnerability and instability under pressure. By incorporating systematic energy pathway development, we can build more reliable manifestation protocols. The technical discussion continued, with Rias occasionally contributing devil perspectives on dragon energy management. Throughout, Issei noted the subtle competition between the two supernatural women, each offering valuable insights while establishing their particular faction's relevance to his development. Eventually, Recovery Girl returned to enforce rest requirements, diplomatically but firmly ushering visitors from the room. As they prepared to leave, Mirko lingered momentarily. That water manifestation saved lives today, she stated matter-of-factly. Not just from the fire, but by preserving evidence critique. Cal to building a case against Phoenix operations. Good work, Hyodo. Coming from the normally reserved hero, the acknowledgement carried significant weight. Issei nodded, accepting the praise without false modesty. Thank you for the opportunity to prove myself. You've done more than prove yourself, she replied, something uncharacteristically thoughtful in her expression. You've demonstrated why the merger of worlds might ultimately benefit both sides. Integration rather than segregation of power systems. After she departed, Issei settled back against the pillows, physical exhaustion competing with mental stimulation from the day's events. As consciousness began fading toward healing sleep, D-Drake's presence stirred within his awareness. You begin to understand the true potential of Dragon Sage abilities. The ancient being observed, not merely communication with dragons, but embodiment of their fundamental aspects. Asterisk. The water manifestation, Issei murmured, hovering at the edge of sleep. It felt different from the red scales. More complete somehow. Elemental aspects represent facets of dragon nature. Red scales, D-Drake's domain, embody power, dominance, amplification. Blue-green scales, Mizuchi's domain, embody adaptation, purification, persistence. Each aspect offers unique capabilities when properly manifested. Asterisk. The implications stirred Issei toward greater wakefulness. How many aspects exist? 5 primary elemental domains, each with subsidiary manifestations. Thousands of potential combinations, though few vessels possess sufficient compatibility to access more than 2 or 3. Asterisk. And the Dragon Sage quirk creates unprecedented compatibility. Your genetic structure was already attuned to draconic energy before sacred gear awakening. The combination creates possibilities unseen since ancient times. Asterisk. The conversation faded as healing sleep finally claimed Issei, his dreams filled with dragons of various aspects, some familiar from mythology, others entirely unknown to human records. Throughout these dream flights, one consistent element emerged, a sense of anticipation, as if the dragon world watched his development with growing interest. Beyond his hospital room, various factions indeed observed his progress with intense focus. Mirko updated hero agencies on the new manifestation capabilities. Akano reported to moderate fallen angel factions interested in sacred gear developments. Rias communicated with House Gremory regarding political implications. And in a luxurious penthouse across the city, Riser Phoenix nursed wounded pride with expensive wine. Reviewing security footage of the blue-green scales manifestation with calculating interest. Multiple aspects already, he mused to a shadowed figure seated across from him. The vessel develops faster than projected. As anticipated, replied his companion, voice carrying ancient weariness beneath aristocratic polish. Dragon Sage compatibility accelerates the awakening process exponentially. The question remains whether he will align with existing factions or establish independent position. Riser swirled his wine contemplatively. Today's events push him further from devil influence. The Gremory girl makes progress, but circumstances have strengthened hero allegiance. Then we adjust accordingly, the shadowed figure stated simply. The awakening proceeds regardless of temporary allegiances. When enough aspects manifest, the sanctuary will recognize its guardian. And our arrangement. A chuckle emanated from the shadows. Honored as agreed. Use Phoenix will receive Dragon Fire integration as promised. Immortality enhanced beyond current limitations. Riser raised his glass in satisfaction. Then we continue as planned. The next phase begins with the transfer student's arrival. Indeed. Tiamat's vessel approaches completion. Her introduction will accelerate all remaining aspects. The conspirators continued their discussion as night fell over Musudafu. Unaware that miles away, Issei's sleeping form briefly manifested scales of varied colors: crimson, azure, gold, emerald, and obsidian, each representing dragon aspects stirring toward awakening within the vessel, who would soon face challenges beyond hero training or internship expectations. The Age of Dragons continued its inexorable return to a world transformed by merger. ITH forces both seen and unseen maneuvering for position in the coming evolution. Chapter 3 End. The End. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.